destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to This Week in Geek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. I'm not alone. That's right, I'm joined by my compatriot from the lovely city of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Alex, the producer here.
You live! I'm dramatically pointing at you like the monkey from Family Guy.
Yes, I live, and I'm pretty much back to normal, knock on wood. I basically had what I thought was like bad indigestion or a side effect of like from years ago having stomach surgery where something wasn't digesting right, and where I felt like I was blown up like a balloon and just in overall pain, not sleeping for a few days and all. And it turns out it might have just been like the first time since I've had surgery like 7 years ago where I had a really bad like stomach flu reaction.
Yeah, because
it wasn't food poisoning. It was like, because, you know, everybody else ate the same food. It wasn't food poisoning. It wasn't anything. Only thing I could think of was like I was having a reaction to like digesting certain red meats, or, you know, the thought was, well, could it be like a gallbladder attack or problem? It's like, no, different type of pain. No, I felt like I thought I had like horrible acid reflux, but there was no acid reflux. It was just burping every like 10 seconds. And it felt like after I had surgery and I was like blown up like a balloon. I'm like, what is going on? And then just not sleeping. It's like, but I realized something now too. I forgot that since my surgery, I don't get like the nausea feeling. Mm-hmm. You know, so you got to be careful in that case. Like the part of the stomach that's cut away is the part that produces the feeling of like when you eat something that's gone bad or whatever. So I'm always hyper vigilant about figuring out, you know, what's safe to eat, what's not. But it also won't give you the early warnings of like when you have a stomach flu. When you normally would have a stomach flu and you feel barfy and sick, I don't get that feeling. So you know, it hits you and it's like, oh, I probably had a really bad stomach flu and then didn't know.
Yeah, because like I was chatting with my sister Kara, who's a nurse practitioner in the Ontario healthcare system, and I was describing your symptoms. And I remember one of the first things she said to me, like, well, I don't like the fact that he's in pain. I don't like the fact that he's been in pain for so long. This could be a bowel obstruction. And it kind of freaked me out because you and I both had the bariatric stomach surgery within the last couple of years. And a former friend of mine passed away this last September due to complications from her stomach surgery. So not gonna lie, for about a day there, I'm thinking, shit, Blair, are we gonna have to drive to Kitchener and drag his stupid ass to the hospital?
Yeah,
and
no, it wasn't a stricture like where things seal up. Like I was able to drink water, keep water down. I was able to, you know, take my pills or do whatever I needed to do that way. It was just like the worst heartburn you could imagine, but then again, there was no stomach acid. There was nothing like coming up, and I even tried to like induce vomiting, you know, when I was like, oh, something bad, but nothing would come up. Nothing. I'm like, what is going on? And then and partially nothing was coming up because I wasn't eating anything, right? Mm-hmm. I basically didn't eat any food for like 48 hours. Just because I felt like I was going to explode, and I'm like, I'm just going to try to sleep, but I couldn't sleep, and it was like that vicious cycle. And then, you know, I talked to family, and thank God, my dad came by and he goes, here. And it was like a bottle of Gaviscon, in case there was stomach acid or something, because it would coat and help. And that helped with the burping. So I'm like, okay, so there is like gas production happening. And then he picked up Gravol for me because we were like, hey, what could help me sleep if there's nausea? And I'm like, I don't get the nausea feeling. He's like, just because you don't get the feeling doesn't mean you don't have the symptoms. And I was like, that's right. So I took a couple Gravol, and then boom, was able to sleep. And then within like, a few hours of like, oh, I actually feel a little better. So there was some nausea or whatever. So that's where I cued into, oh, I must have a stomach bug, and not realize. It just means that in 7 years I just hadn't had one. I had been sort of lucky until then. I'm like, this sucks. But again, and if you're wondering, like bowel obstruction, no, I was able to make poopies, and I was able to like there was nothing that way, and I'm like, okay, so that's good. So it's not that, and it was like not the feeling of people that say the gallbladder where there's a pain that goes around to your back and there's whole. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't a pain like like a throbbing. It was just like a feeling like you have horrible gas that you can't pass. Mm-hmm. That's what it was like. So that's why I say it was like for you or anybody that's had gastric surgery, that feeling after you have the gastric surgery, you're like, wow, I really need to fart. And it's like, but that's not going away. And then it just did, right? Obviously, if doing what I had done, like I got sick on the Sunday night, and then by Tuesday is when I was able to finally sleep. But I wasn't like better out of the woods because I was weak from not eating or anything. I had like a few slices of white bread over the next day or two. And then on Friday, which was the Friday of the Mike Tyson fight, or quote unquote fight.
Yeah.
Is, my brother came over and a friend came over to watch it. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not contagious with anything, because if it was, my dad would have gotten sick or whatever. And he's like, I sort of slept a little bit, and that's the day where I'm like, I was able to eat like normal food again. All I had was like a handful of plain French fries that were put in the air fryer with no extra oil, just something starchy, something that could like stick to you. And I ate that, and I'm like, ooh, I feel actually okay. I was, a little lightheaded from, not having sleep properly and not being able to do that. But I had that, and then I had a Rice Krispie square. And I was like, I feel, a lot better. And then it took another full week for me to get all my energy back. And here's a telling thing. In the course of 6 days, I lost 14 pounds.
Jeez.
So good? Question mark. I mean, I kept hydrated. I was able to, like, I was drinking water nonstop, basically. So it wasn't like that was just water weight that went away.
That's insane. Well, I'm glad you're back. I really am.
Like knock on wood, knocking on my head, and obviously, like, I'm not going to the doctor for this, but if I might go get a flu shot or whatever, if I ever get symptoms like this again, especially if it happens within like the next month, then I have to go get checked out, because then I'll have to be scoped or whatever, in case, like, is it an ulcer? Is it gallbladder? Is it different things, right? But if it doesn't happen again, I'm chalking it up to the fact that there's like been the flu going around, which is true, right?
Yeah, because like I had that for like 2 weeks, and it pretty much crippled me.
So you know what I mean? It's like, if nothing happens, like, not that I'm ignoring it, but if nothing happens again, I'm chalking it up just to the flu. If I get another symptom like that again, like if I eat something and then like I get that same feeling again, and it happens again, and I'm laying off. It was beef based, because I sort of felt funny on the Friday when I ate some beef, but it was like just in like a roast, and just had a little bit, and I was like, I got indigestion for a couple hours. That can happen with red meat when you have I've had stomach surgery, and I'm like, okay, I'll chalk it up to that. It was fine the Saturday, then the Sunday had beef again, and then that's when it went bad. But it was different cut of beef, different entirely, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's just red meat that's bothering me. Well, since then I've had some pork, and I've had tried a little bit of bacon, no problem. Haven't had beef really since, but I'm like, I'm just going to lay off beef for a couple weeks. And if I try some beef like from a different cut or a completely different thing altogether, if I try a little bit, in a couple weeks, and it does the same thing, then I'm going to be like, all right, it's time to get checked out, because that's not a reaction that my body has had ever. So it'll be worth checking out because it can happen with people's tolerances once you've had bariatric surgery, but usually that will present itself within the first year where you find out what you can and can't eat, right?
Hmm.
So, but yeah, that's basically why like a lot of things like my review coverage has been delayed. A lot of stuff we were sent for gift guide I wasn't able to focus on for basically 2 weeks. Now, just now in the last few days, have I gotten back to feeling completely normal, having all my energy levels back, for the most part, sleeping at the right times. Because I'll tell you one thing, have a flu for a week and then find out how your sleeping pattern gets completely screwed up. I tell you, man, now I'm finally being like, all right, I got to go to bed at this time, have a normal sleep, and now I feel mostly normal. Again, knock on wood, everything's fine. But like, this was by far the most sick I've felt in like 7 or 8 years.
And it sucks. Well, as we most often do off the top of the show, that's what Alex has been up to for the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry, my last couple weeks have been doom and gloom.
Pretty much. As for myself, I find myself going to the movies a lot recently. It's just one of those things I do to mentally unwind. I kind of took the idea from Dave and Ken, sort of like go when you can. It's good for your mental health. And normally I'm always stressed out about trying to save the world locally. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'm just going to go take a rest. So I went to go see Gladiator 2. It's okay. It's
I hated
fine.
it.
I missed the last 30 minutes because I felt sick, so I came home.
Well, you didn't miss much, I'll say that.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So maybe I'll go and finish it. I don't know. I
It's
saw.
here's my very quick review. As a standalone movie, it's a 6.5 out of 10.
Mhm.
As a follow up to the original, it's a 5.
Yeah, it's completely unnecessary to
It-
tie
and
up
a,
certain
and a 5.
loose ends.
Remember, on our scale, this isn't the IGN scale. A 5 isn't bad. A 5 is bleh.
Yeah,
It's a bland
unnecessary.
popcorn movie by itself. If Gladiator 1 didn't exist, it would be like a C plus. You'd be like, okay, it's fun. This is just sort of a C or a C minus. You're like, it's fine. Do not rush out to theaters to watch it. Wait till it hits either matinee or home video.
Yeah, exactly. Like I might go back and see the ending on Tuesday when it's the cheap day. I also saw Heretic while you were gone, which is evil Hugh Grant, and I think I talked about that before. I saw the English dub of Dragon Ball Daima, which I do need to catch up on that on Crunchyroll. Last night I went to go see Wicked in theaters, which I went on a Sunday night as of this show's recording. So hopefully you're hearing this on the Monday. Um, it was nearly empty until my show started at 6, and I got in there about quarter to 6. And I'm like, all right, there's like nobody in here. And then 5:55 hit, like 300 people all came in. The theater was near full on a Sunday night. I was impressed.
Well,
Nobody
no,
sang.
it's a big like that musical has been big for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like when I was working at Future Shop, there was one dude that was I think the customer service. He wasn't the manager. He was like the assistant manager or whatever. And dude was super into like he would go to like he would take his vacation, go down to Broadway and watch musicals. That was his deal.
Cool.
And well, he kind of freaked people out because he had seen it like 17 times.
Wow.
Like he traveled to London, England for the sole purpose of watching their production of it.
Wow. When I
And,
saw it,
and all of his Facebook back in when early Facebook, back when everybody was using Facebook, right? Like we're talking
Mhm.
07, 08, 09. His Facebook was like full of like pictures of him like with the cast because he had become like a groupie.
that's cool.
Like he was like a full-blown theater groupie, but very specifically Wicked was his favorite musical of all time, and it was like the biggest thing. And so like I knew all the songs and because he would sing it at work, humming it to himself and all this. Like he was like so excited when they found out like off Broadway groups were starting to do it and that sort of like. So like to me, me, I'm not the biggest musical guy. Like I don't have a personal interest in wanting to see this. part of it is like I already pretty much know the whole play just from osmosis of absorbing it over the course of 3 years of working with the dude. But I can also tell when when the reviews are like, hey, this is actually a good one, it's a good adaptation. I'm like, okay, this is going to be big, because not just because of him, but like through him and through that community, I was like, this is going to be a big one. Like it's been a while since we had a big musical be a hit, but I was like, I already had a feeling. I'm like, this one, it's either like, if they don't capture the fans, if they don't capture the super fans of the actual Broadway musical, then it's going to flop. But for all intents and purposes, all the early previews, people are saying, oh, it captures it perfectly. I'm like, okay, this is going to be like the big musical of the decade.
Yeah, like I saw like when I went to see Gladiator the other day, there were people dressed up for the matinee. And I was like, okay, cool. I didn't expect that. Went in on, like I said, last night on Sunday because I saw Gladiator the other day. I was impressed as how many kids are in there, how many families are in there. It's a long, like it's almost 3 hours. It's a little boring for the first 20 or so minutes, but once it gets into the main story, it's really good. I was honestly impressed, and now I understand the significance of the song Defying Gravity. I hope you're happy, stuff like that. And I didn't expect there to be certain elements. I didn't expect the talking animals thing. I didn't know that Peter Dinklage was a voice in it. And I was like,
Well,
that's really cool. I didn't know that.
now I wonder, because again, I don't know. This is Ken will probably tell us.
Yeah.
I was going to say whether or not if they ended up using any of the Broadway cast in like part roles, like not this. They obviously the main cast was changed to celebrities for the movie itself, right? Like, but I'm wondering if a lot of the original cast members, ended up getting bit roles here and there within it.
Oh, I wouldn't
Um,
surprise me if like they were dancers or minor speaking roles or something.
yeah,
Like
that's what I
that.
mean. Like, sometimes they'll do that for a big one, because like I know that some of the cast, they were doing it for like 10 years or more on
Mhm.
Broadway, right? So, and they have such distinct voices, and they're like, like rock stars of that community. So I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't look it up, but like if just in the background, like they just showed up and did
Oh yeah.
something, right?
One person I didn't expect to show up was Michelle Yeoh. I didn't know she was in this. I'm like, Captain Giorgio? Um, are
It's,
you gonna Section 31 this bitch? Um,
I mean, she's the new hotness now. Well, I mean, she's not the new hotness, but she's like new hotness right now,
yeah,
right?
well,
So,
it's amazing how much her career has just resurged since Star Trek
like,
Discovery.
Gen X and like older millennials like us, our first thought is super cop,
Yeah,
for
Super Cop and Mulan, like, hi.
they think like super cop, or they'll go the Bond girl, from it was her and what's her
Halle Berry or something, or
no, it was Starship Troopers, no
oh,
charisma. Uh,
Denise Richards.
yeah.
The
I
world
think
is not enough. The world is not enough. Yeah,
or is it tomorrow? Tomorrow
or no,
never die.
something like that.
It
Either way,
was
the
what
bad Pierce Brosnan one, the one
what-
that was boring.
the movie where they needed two Bond girls because one wasn't going to be able to do anything, so they had to have a second one, and it was Michelle Yeoh. And then if you go like a little younger generation, they're like, oh, she was in Sunshine and a few of these other movies, and it's like she's had a few career renaissances, and then now, it's like she's the big new hotness ever since Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? So
Yeah, and like I said, I was just so impressed. And then random Jeff Goldblum, I knew tangentially he was in it, and I'm like, all right, cool. I didn't expect the girl who played Elfie to be as good as she was. Um, Not gonna lie, the green skin kind of does it for me. Guess I have a thing for Orion girls now. But it was just incredible, just realizing both these leads can actually sing. And I have never really focused on an Ariana Grande song. Like, I know more about her brother, Frankie Grande, from watching Big Brother back in the day when he was on the show. And I've known about her for a while. And She's not my type, but I can appreciate those really big brown eyes that really accentuate her Glenda role.
Or for me, what all I hear with her is her lisp when she sings.
Yeah,
It's there, and for people that don't like, I don't know how people don't notice it, but it's there. I know her for that, and I know her for being a complete dick by like, was it licking the donuts
oh yeah,
like I know her for doing stupid shit that hit TMZ more than
oh
anything.
yeah. And it's crazy because I think I don't know how many acting roles she'll get post this, but she's really good in this one because I think she really did want to hone in and focus. Like, if this is going to be my one shot, I'm going to do this really well.
She'll probably get a few things, here and there. I don't think. Okay, obviously she started as like a Disney Channel kid, right?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
It was either that or because younger generation is not for us. She was either a Disney kid or she was a Nickelodeon kid, one of those two, right? On the
Yeah.
shows.
Think so. Yeah.
Most of those kids don't end up being great actors when they grow up.
There's the odd good one.
She has potential, I'll say that.
Yeah, like I was pleasantly surprised. Some of those some of those songs will get Oscar nominated. Costumes, it'll definitely get something, and set design for sure.
And you know that once the movie comes out on streaming and home video and all that, that
It'll
they'll
destroy
do
things.
some of the songs will get the sing along versions on YouTube and get 1 billion views.
Oh yeah, for sure. So anyway, guys, go see Wicked. I loved it, and go see Heretic if you haven't had a chance to. Evil Hugh Grant is great.
Slightly different tones.
Slightly different tone. One is God is dead and you're an idiot for believing, and the other one is stand up and fight the power, which did not expect that from Wicked.
Now, if you want a fun activity, go into Heretic, but in your head, believe that it is a sequel to I don't know, something like Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah, exactly. This is what happened when man is scorned.
No.
Notting Hill. Notting.
That's what I was thinking. Sorry, I was thinking Notting Hill. That is, it's just like, oh, I'm humming. Yeah, and it's just what if it's that character and
Moves
but then
to America, becomes
he's that character, and he's been that character the whole time. But that character, like who he plays in that movie, is just the cover for the fact of who he really is.
See, there you go. Heretic, the secret sequel to Notting Hill. So anyway, guys, we have a fantastic show for you. I have a movie review coming to you from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment, where I'm going to be talking about my first ever Alfred Hitchcock movie, North by Northwest. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to say that. So I'm going to be talking about that. Alex, what do you got for us this week?
I have the Dragon Quest III HD-2D. That was the last game that I fully played before I had the Death Plague for a couple of weeks. And then I also have the Lego Horizon Adventures, which was, I think, something that's sort of slipping under the radar because it's coming out, so close to the holiday season, and might be overshadowed by Astro being such a huge family game from Sony in the last few months. But I did get a chance to play that slightly before I got sick, so I've got those reviews in this show. I'll have plenty more to come soon as I ramp up, but pretty good variety of stuff, I think, in the show as far as reviews go, eh?
Yeah, that should be pretty good. I know we're going to have a lot of stuff that's going to be in preview coverage for Holiday Gift Guide because we've got sent so many games. We've got it spread out. We've got that spread between JT, Ken, some other friends of us who work tangentially with the show. And we've just asked them, if you got this for Christmas, would you be happy?
So expect our Holiday Gift Guide coverage to be a little different in that we might end up, because so many companies said so many things, we might end up having, here's our game section, and by the way, in the game section, here's some titles from certain publishers you might want to consider.
Exactly.
It'll be like that. We might have our picks for our favorites that are outside of that, but like not everything we were sent is going to make the list. That's the idea. It's for gift guide consideration. But this, I'll say this to you, the listeners, this is the year that we were sent the most things.
Yeah,
So
this is the
we've
most games we've ever gotten.
so we've had to make some choices to cut things, or they might get an honorable mention. It's just that we might not be able to cover absolutely everything. But rest assured, for anybody out there, we did play and test every single thing we were sent. Just not everything can make a 2-hour show.
Yeah, exactly. And you can look for that holiday gift guide coverage coming out on December 13th or 12th of this year. Basically, the day after the Game Awards is when we typically release that holiday gift guide. And yeah, we've got a lot to talk about this year. But we also have a lot to talk about on the show. We got news coming from the world of Hasbro, Spider-Man, and of course, we're going to talk about all those aforementioned video games and so much more right here on thisweekingeek.net. We're going to take a brief interlude with one of Alex's reviews. We'll be right back right here on thisweekingeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Our friends over at Sony Interactive Entertainment provided us with a review code for Lego Horizon Adventures. Now, this is something that's on multi-platform, but we actually are playing the PS5 version, so it's pretty much going to be visually the best version, because it is also available on Switch, which was sort of a surprise, I think, to a lot of people when it was announced, but interesting and kind of made sense because it's a more family-friendly take on what would normally be considered a more mature game for more advanced players, both in age and in skill level. And I'm happy to say that this retains the same charm and feel of previous, Lego games that are based on different licenses, just at a much higher fidelity. Just overall, much more attention to detail has been placed in not just the visuals itself and the art direction, but a lot of the physics and stuff too. So, for instance, when you're running around on different textured areas, the haptics kick in the DualSense controller, so they're taking full advantage of a lot of the features that are somewhat unique to the platform. Audio wise, pretty solid as well. Good music, good immersion. If you're somebody who's obviously played the other games in the series, like the mainline games, you sort of know what you're in for. It is a distillation, a simplification, if you will, retelling of previous, like the mainline story from the first game, while giving it a more bubbly, family-friendly twist, which is kind of fun. I think for kids, they're going to have a good time playing it, no problem. I think for adults, I wouldn't say play this first. If you're buying it for yourself and you're an adult, I wouldn't say buy this first and have this be your first experience with the Horizon franchise. I mean, you can, but I think you get a lot more as an adult if you've gone through, over the past 10 years or so and played the first, played the expansion, played the second one that came out just a little while back, and you'll really appreciate it more. It's not an overly long game. It was about 6-7 hours for me to complete the main stories, and that's like 70-75% completion from what I found. Probably going to be in the realm of about 10-12 hours for a completionist run. So it's sort of in that sweet spot for the kind of game it is, for like a more family-friendly take. It's not going to drain you of hours and hours and hours doing crazy challenges. It's not the deepest game when it comes to, I'd say, a ton of replayability. Again, it's going to depend on the kind of games that you like, right? It's not like got a bazillion modes and a whole bunch of extras. It's just a very well polished 10 to 12 hour experience, and then you might want to come back to it at some point and so forth. It's basically the same idea as a lot of the previous Lego games. There's just maybe, to be honest, a little less than some of those, but I don't mind that trade-off for a substantial bump in visual quality as well as just polish on the overall controls. It is the best graphics by far in the franchise. The combat is pretty good, has a decent variety. It's easy enough to pick up on patterns and figure things out. And most importantly, it's always fun when you're playing. I never felt bored or never felt tedious, and that can sometimes creep in games like this. No problem. No problem whatsoever. There are a lot of repetitive objectives that you might encounter. but that is in line with previous Lego games. So, I'm looking at this with my adult brain thinking, is this what I want, or would I want to go back and play the other Horizon games? And I'm like, you know what? I like that they took a swing and did something different. I think it's going to be something that if you're looking for a game for the family, that you won't have any issues with, there's no objectionable content. It's not going to be like too scary or violent or anything that you might be concerned with if you have younger kids that want to play. But maybe they've seen you play the previous games or have heard about it, and they want to have something that they can play that's, still sort of tells that story. Well, that's what Lego Horizon Adventures is. And I do think it sort of slipped a little under the radar with other Sony published titles like Astro coming out earlier and getting most of the heaps of praise, and coming out so close to the holiday season. I don't know if it's going to get, overlooked. I hope it doesn't, because it is a solid family game, something that Sony has needed a lot more of, and I'm glad to see more coming, and hopefully this is a trend that we start seeing moving forward. I mean, I'd like to see what they could do with some of their other franchises. I don't know, like a God of War Lego game, maybe something like that could be down the line.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek.
And welcome back to thisweekingeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. All right, guys, we have a lot of stuff to talk about this week, and our first story comes courtesy of MSN.com. Hasbro's gamer CEO to focus on play after pairing film assets. Hasbro Inc.'s chief executive officer Chris Cox couldn't hide his disappointment when he opened 2-packs of his company's Magic the Gathering's playing cards at a board game cafe in New York. Cox likes to play from a red deck whose aggressive cards can quickly deliver creatures and spells to better an opponent. Instead, he got more contemplative blue card, which required him to patiently build a strategy and deplete his rival's health and win the game. He absolutely shuffled and drew his first hand. A gamer at heart, Cox was tapped to run what was the largest U.S. toy maker in 2022 after the death of his predecessor, Brian Goldner. Hasbro, like other toy companies, was enjoying a surge in sales with parents buying gifts for their kids stuck at home during the pandemic. But the boom began to fade once kids returned to school and other activities. Sales in the company's consumer division, which includes classic toys like G.I. Joe action figures, Play-Doh modeling clay, are expected to fall for the third straight year. Analysts are forecasting only modest growth in 2025. Hasbro has laid off over 1,000 workers and is considering a move to Boston from its longtime home in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Meanwhile, Hasbro movies co-finance, including the recent Transformers 1, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, received critical praise but underperformed at the box office. Last year, the parent company sold off most of its film and television businesses, and longtime rival Mattel passed the company in annual sales. While the studios such as Sony Corp Group and Lionsgate Entertainment will continue to make movies based on company products, Hasbro itself won't be co-financing the films. Yet. Can you hear me, Alex?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, my television screen went off and Blair was flicking their hands at me. I don't know, for some reason my television's been turning itself off a lot, but it's an Amazon Fire TV and it just randomly does that with my computer. I don't know, it's probably just something with the HDMI cord or something. I don't know.
It's for listeners, it's likely that because you have like a active background, it could be a screensaver thing where it goes to sleep if you don't move the mouse.
Yeah, so I'm just going to keep my hand on the mouse and just jiggle it. Anyway, so sorry about that, guys. Little peek behind the camera.
Like you're in the bathroom.
Like you're in the bathroom. So anyway, while studios such as Sony Group Core and Lionsgate Entertainment will continue to make movies based upon its company's products, Hasbro itself won't be co-financing the film. It's part of a larger strategy to invest more in video and other games, which are popular with kids and adults and have been taking greater share of consumers' leisure time. Quote, "We want to reach fans where they play, and increasingly that is through the digital expression of their favorite brands." Microsoft Core veteran joined Hasbro in 2016 as the president of the company's Wizards of the Coast division, and which makes Magic and the popular Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game. Sales at that unit nearly doubled to 1.4 billion between 2019 and 2023 as Cox introduced a new card pack for Magic and an online version called Magic: The Gathering Arena. A licensing deal for the hit title Monopoly Go is expected to bring in 105 million in revenue this year, while another for Baldur's Gate 3 garnered 90 million in its first 6 months. Hasbro wants to make more games itself. The company already invested 1 billion in developing video games. Cox says he's earned 100 million to 150 million a year for future products, including a new science fiction adventure game called Exodus, which is headed by veterans from Baldur's Gate developer BioWare. Hasbro is also developed.
Let's take a pause. That's my most anticipated game of the next year or two.
Ooh,
it is all of the entire Mass Effect team that did Mass Effect 1 through and 3. That's where they went.
Oh, so maybe we'll see something cool then.
So they started the studio with the intent of their job was create a video game that can then be used to make a new tentpole tabletop game. And they were told basically do sci-fi because they have between Magic and D&D, they've got fantasy covered. And they went, we want something with solid RPG mechanics and great world building, and we want it in the sci-fi genre. So they basically poached some of the best people from BioWare to start up a new studio, especially knowing that, hey, Baldur's Gate 3 was such a hit, and it wasn't made by them internally, it was licensed out. Well, now they want to do things internally. So it's quite clear that, hey, while maybe toys themselves directly aren't selling as well as they were before, what is video games?
Yeah, which actually kind of follows up on my next thing. So while Hasbro is also working on a new Dungeons and Dragons video game that hasn't been previously announced, Cox said in the action and an action adventure game based on G.I. Joe that's currently in pre-production, the company aims to release 2 video games a year by 2026. Video games aren't a surefire way to counter the dragon toys and movies. In 2023, Wizards of the Coast canceled at least 5 video games amid a post-pandemic contraction in the industry. More than 11,500 video game workers have lost their jobs so far this year. Some analysts predict that the market will rebound in 2025, but still won't hit the COVID-fueled high of 2021, obviously. Quote, video games are a very, 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 and I cannot emphasize this enough, competitive, said Arpine Kochiran, a USBS securities analyst. The only way to win is to have these strong brands that can withstand the test of time, but strong execution. When you marry those, you get successes like Monopoly Go or Baldur's Gate. Hasbro is leaning more to invest in more of its Magic video game format. Sales of the fantasy card game have grown each of the last 6 years, and in 2022 crossed $1 billion in revenue. But Cox said Magic Arena, while popular, doesn't harness Magic's 2 biggest growth arenas, collectability and its Commander format, which has involved more players and cards. Currently, Hasbro is testing a video game version of Commander, which would potentially be separate from Arena and allow for more than 2 players to compete. Hasbro is also looking to make the digital version of its cards more collectible, like the popular game Marvel Snap. Magic is adding characters from Lord of the Rings and Marvel Comics into its fantasy card game setting, provoking mixed reactions from fans who say Hasbro is diluting Magic's vibe. Still, Magic's Lord of the Rings cards were in second set series to surpass $200 million in lifetime revenue, and were the game's fastest and top selling, which we actually did cover on the show last year. I think someone had bought the Lord of the Rings Magic card, and one of the I think the One Ring was discovered in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was something like that.
So Hasbro hopes that this will bring in new and lapsed players. A Spider-Man inspired collection is coming in 2025. Quote, think of Magic as a canvas. Ken Troop, the global play leader for the title, said in an interview last month at Hasbro's New York office, Magic IP is one of the things we can put on the canvas, but we can put other things on it. Back in a Manhattan cafe, Cox pulled out pulled ahead in the Magic game. He held one card close to his chest, teasing that it could have made all the difference in the game. Once his victory is sure, he revealed it is a useless gray card. What makes Magic so successful is what will drive Hasbro's future success. Cox said with a bit of a cackle in his voice, it's grounded in play. And then, it sucks that they're not going to be co-financing future movies.
Well,
I can see because Transformers 1 underperformed, but everybody loved it.
It was also very concerning for specifically the Canadian market because they had that very publicized takeover of Entertainment One, which used to be was the amalgamation of the old Alliance Atlantis and a few other studios to become basically the singular major movie studio and television studio in Canada. Bought them, and then they had to basically sell them, at a loss to Lionsgate, who now has had 5 failed movies under the E1 and Lionsgate banner in the last year. It's like, oh God. So their debacle of how they handled their purchases just before and during the pandemic was bad. But the one area of growth that they had basically, even more than D&D, has been Magic the Gathering. And the renewed interest in like their properties because of Baldur's Gate 3 being such a big hit during the pandemic.
Yeah, and like to speak about this from the role-playing game perspective, because I did talk about the player's guide for 2024, and I just received my Dungeon Masters guide package. I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet. I know players aren't thrilled with the new additions to the game. It's not to say that they're bad, but this happens every single time when you go from 3rd edition to 4th edition and vice versa. People just don't want to move on. And now that I'm to the point where they're even like not calling it 5.5, which is what it is, right? Yeah, basically.
They're calling it 5th edition 2024 edition, and it's like, that's just because you don't want to say 5.5 because it'll make people mad.
Yeah,
but the changes also, and the other part that could be a little cynical is these books had to be altered sort of last minute before hitting the press because they were originally designed to incorporate the new like corporate rules that they wanted to have, which got that huge major backlash. Remember the whole idea of them owning your podcasts and your live plays, and anybody who plays their games agrees that they get to own your game, like your media, and how they were trying to control and change the open RPG system, like all this stuff that they had done that got such bad blood around them.
Oh yeah,
they had to basically, which was going to be baked into these books as part of like the whole deal. They had to strip all that shit out before they released this. And then, basically they're like, hey, it's a revised version. Now, it ended up being a better compromise, I think, overall because of how much they had to pivot back.
Oh yeah,
so,
like there were YouTubers like I think the channels were Rules Lawyer, Dungeons and Discourse,
there's a bunch
D&D
of them,
Shorts. Yeah, like there were so many people that had really, really, really good takes. The Dungeon Dudes, I think Taking 20 had said something, Web DM. And I can't say that I'm in love with the 2024 rules. I like certain aspects of it, like there are they've corrected some rules exploits, but created some pretty interesting new ones. Like if you want to see how to kill the Tarrasque at level 2, go to D&D Shorts on YouTube. That guy is fucking hilarious, and he understands the rules so well. If your DM lets this happen at your table, you may wish to have a conversation. But I don't know how I feel about this because like most people, they don't want to upgrade their books, but compatibility is pretty easy. You just have to keep certain things in mind. And one of the things I liked about the player's guide is they say, hey, here's what this is now called from 2014 to this. Keep this in mind. If you're going to do this, XYZ, and they even give you the option on D&D Beyond when you're making new characters and campaigns. They say, this is legacy content, which is 2014, and here's the new content. But you have to make sure you're checking everything because it's real. I've run into this problem in my private game with some of the friends that I play with on Monday nights, we have to make sure we have the legacy version of the spells changed and making sure that we're playing with the proper rule set. So it does happen.
And also, you know, when it's been about 10 years since you launched a new version, one advantage to this beyond just, you know, some corrections is a lot of times the books are slightly larger because they get to incorporate a little more. Like because this is such a heavily played, like way more than pretty much anything else in the world, like heavily played in organized fashions even, they take the feedback of like literally millions of players and are able to have a slightly better edition of the book. So
exactly.
I get why they're doing it, obviously, and to resell. And you know, there's the capitalism part of it. You know, you get that. So I mean, it's been an interesting year for them. So, you know, seeing them talk about how they're going to do more with games and that, I'm hoping that Exodus ends up being good and people like it, and that's the realm they go, because that's closer in line with like Baldur's Gate 3. When the cynic in me is like, hey, he mentioned Monopoly Go because that made billions of dollars. And it's like, oh, please don't make everything like a mobile game that's just a gotcha that you're going to pay bazillions of, you know, money to in microtransactions. It sounds like they're smart. This new CEO is smart enough to go, hey, you know, we've got the casual market with the Monopoly Go, but we're also trying to capture a critical market with better quality things.
Yeah, like there has been talk in the Transformers fandom, for example, is a lot of the older games like War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, and I think Devastation recently just got Steam Deck verified. And there's been rumors for like over a year now that the games are going to reappear on Xbox Live Marketplace. There's been placeholders that have been updated because there's like a Twitter account online that keeps an eye on this shit. So you really want to wow me if you told me we're going to re-release War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron remastered, whatever, that would sell. And the thing that points that in my direction, I think it's likely going to happen, is because I collect the toys and Hasbro is generous enough to send me some of these things. Gamer Edition figures are coming pretty consistently. Like we just got War for Cybertron Ratchet, which comes out, I think, this month. War for Cybertron Sideswipe came out. Ironhide's been revealed at New York Comic Con, I want to say. So there's interest in the IP, right? And Thundercracker, I think, comes out in like February or something like that. So people give a shit, clearly, or no, it's Skywarp. But anyway,
and I remember like there's some memorable boss battles in those games.
Oh yeah,
like the was
the
it
Trypticon fights, the Omega Supreme fight.
That's the one I think that sticks out with most people. It was like, yeah, it's like a God of War fight, but it's like I never thought that was going to be something I'd have in a Transformers game.
Yeah, like I never expected the Trypticon fight. Like, hey, yeah, you're fighting a space station. Like that's awesome. And to get these games re-released, and now leaks have appeared where we're now getting a look at Transformers Optimus Prime in his Devastation deco with some minor re-engineering, and it looks okay. I don't know whether I'm gonna get it. Okay, I'm gonna get it.
Now it is still interesting that, you know, we haven't heard anything from them on the development hell that the current game is in.
Yeah, reactivate, because there has been some stuff come out because they recently just re-released Gamer Edition Reactivate Bumblebee.
Like, I think that game was supposed to be a 2023 to 2024 target release, and we've heard nothing since the teaser.
There was some stuff that came out in an interview last year or earlier this summer, I want to say, but nothing concrete. But the fact that they're re-releasing the Reactivate figures does speak to me of something with like maybe a licensing agreement. I mean, obviously they don't want to get rid of the mold. I own all those figures and they're surprisingly cool. I'm actually very impressed by the engineering on them. So we'll have to wait and see. The thing that sucks about the no co-financing is you saw the effect of one Twitter account, TF Hype Guy, who got people in the theaters, who boosted that movie by easily millions of dollars by convincing people to go see it. A one-man Twitter campaign, and so much so people from the development team reached out, the voice actor for Jazz reached out, and a few other people, and it worked. And the movie's fantastic. Should there be a sequel? Yes. Are we going to get one? The team wants to do it, but we don't know now that they're not going to co-finance it. So my question is, because there was talk of they're doing a Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves sequel, they said we can do it if it's smaller in scope. They could do it. And there's a D&D TV series. What's going to happen there? Because from what I hear, they were already doing something. Like, I know it was, I want to say in pre-production, if not, something was happening very soon with it.
That issue is going to be that Paramount is in bankruptcy proceedings and trying to sell, right? And that was originally signed to be a direct to Paramount Plus show. So unless it was really far along, who knows what's happening right now?
Yeah, and you saw how well, the Halo TV series went. I mean, the first season was, the second season got better.
Unless the partner is Amazon or Apple, even Netflix, it's hard to tell who gets things made. Basically, if something is announced for Amazon, it comes out. If something is announced for Apple, it comes out. If something is announced for any other platform, it's up in the air right now.
Yeah, because like with Paramount Plus, unless it's like Yellowstone, no one cares. And even then, that's in its final season, I want to say.
Yeah, and like Tulsa King's doing okay in the second season, and like they've got a few others, but like unless it's specifically like a Taylor Sheridan type show, or if it's something made for people over 50, Paramount will do it right now.
Yeah,
and as long as it doesn't have too much special effects, like if it's more of a drama, Paramount will do it. Otherwise, and like Netflix is almost entirely focused on trying to launch live sports, so that's basically their focus. So, right now, and we know that like Peacock and Hulu and even Max,
HBO Max, yeah,
it's all up in the air because of management, because of how they've been running things. Disney Plus is in the same boat right now. It's basically Prime and Apple are the only ones where if they're like, hey, we've announced an adaptation of something, you can guarantee it's coming. But everybody else, who knows, man?
Yeah, like I hope we see something interesting come out of this. I want my Transformers sequel. I want more D&D.
Yeah, and reactivate. Like I looked up Splash Damage. I recognize the name. Like they're not a nobody studio. Like they're the team that made Gears Tactics. They also did the Halo Master Chief Collection ports, and then they were like a support team on Gears 5. They also they're the team that made Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Brink. They did the Batman Arkham Origins ports. Like they're well known as mostly being like a support studio or a co-developer. So I think maybe the Reactivate issue has been that they've never made a AAA game completely on their own. So it might be that's. I don't think it's a financing issue because obviously that's the big property from what they've got. But I'm wondering when they're saying they're not co-financing things. Does this mean that maybe it's taking longer because they pulled some of the funding back that they would have done? So who knows, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and find out. So our next story this week comes courtesy of superherohype.com. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is, quote, very far off. Script was restarted. Following the theatrical release of 2023 Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, its planned sequel Beyond the Spider-Verse has suffered setbacks during its ongoing production, including a delay in its original release date. The third installment was originally slated for a March 29th, 2024 release. Somehow think I missed that. However, Sony Pictures ultimately decided to remove it from its theatrical calendar. According to a brand new report, the original script,
which we should say, was because of the strikes that were happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that pushed it, because they were like the strike that happened last year pushed a lot of productions out, and there were issues that it would have been on track to get done, but they were like, it's one of those like super crunch periods for the animators, right? And it became an issue when they realized, hey, we can't get the voice acting, we can't do the writing, we can't do anything. So they had to push it.
According to a brand new report, the original script for Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse was reportedly scrapped by Sony Pictures after the 2023 sequel was released. According to Brandon Davis's Phase Hero podcast, the third installment is, quote, very far off from being released. Davis also revealed that the studio, quote, didn't have the ending when they decided to restart the high-profile project. At the moment, it's unclear when the current status of Beyond the Spider-Verse is, since the studio has yet to reveal its official theatrical release date. However, due to circulating rumors about its production setbacks, it seems fans will likely have to wait longer for the next Miles Morales movie than it just tells us who's kind of starring in it.
So it
Can't
sounds
say I'm
like
surprised.
Like they made it sound like when they were animating them that they were doing everything back to back, and they were, but they were going off flying off the seat of their pants. Like, for it to have originally had the March release, and they didn't have an ending ready for it and all this, it sounds like they would have been going right to the wire. They would have been working nonstop until like January to get it ready for that. So we as fans didn't realize how tight of a deadline it was even to get the last one out, and then it ended up being, an even bigger hit than they were expecting. So you look at this and go, okay, so that doesn't mean we're getting a summer of 2025 release. This is starting to sound more like
27.
Like, if he says far off, it means this is not going to make it for Christmas probably of 2025. This is more going to be maybe a summer of 2026 release.
I'm guessing 2027.
I think don't forget animation. This kind of animation, even though it's really detailed, when you have the kind of money they're putting into it, it can be done in probably a year sooner than you would expect. Because remember, not that many studios do this kind of, like, the animation here is very involved, but it's not the same that like a Pixar movie takes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because yes, it's 3D, yes, it's this, but there's a certain level of fidelity and detail that a Pixar movie takes that this doesn't, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yes, there's a ton of stylized elements here, but what I'm most concerned with would be, I would rather take the movie coming out at the end of 2026 as like a 2026 Christmas movie, basically almost 2 years from now, than have them come out with it for Christmas 2025 and have us find out that they used a lot of AI tools to complete it.
Yeah, like, I'd rather have something good, polished, because this really, like, outside of the Spider-Man game for the PlayStation rather, really gave Miles Morales a showcase to everybody. I mean, sure, comics nerds knew about him since like the early aughts, but now it's time for Miles to show. I mean, I'm ready to not have any more Peter Parker. Honestly, I'd rather see Miles
for another 10, 20 years. It's nice. And then it can be a nostalgia trip to go back, because that's how everything works, right? In cycles.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, great. I am concerned that AI will be used to expedite certain things.
I'm okay with it assisting, but not doing anything dramatic.
Or if one of the part of the multiverses he goes to is an AI multiverse, animated multiverse, I would be fine with that as an in-joke. But like, okay, you know how I was really down on Gladiator? Mm-hmm. Did you notice that they used an AI intro?
See, I thought I fucking imagined that. Like, the whole time I was watching that intro, I'm thinking, this looks AI.
I was soured. People like, oh, they use clips from the original movie sort of in the title sequence. They use still frames and protos, and then they used AI tools to stylize animated versions of them.
It looked like Secret Invasion.
Terrible. Yes, and I was very upset watching. Like, it's very noticeable to anybody who has seen AI shit. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh no, Ridley Scott used AI on here, and I didn't hear people complaining or talking about it, but it was noticeable. And I'm like,
yeah, like I'm glad I'm not the only one who saw that.
And I saw that and went, oh no, he's known
They
to
got
be,
Ridley.
he's one of the most meticulous, artistic, visionary directors ever, and I'm like, he didn't care about this movie because he went with this shit, and you can tell. And I'm worried that that's going to invade this because Sony is going to panic and want money quickly.
Yeah.
When what they have on their hands here is one of the most artistically creative things and franchises that they've ever had, and obviously the MCU connected Spider-Man has been great, but most of their other properties have been either meh, or like a laughing stock joke like Morbius and fucking.
Okay, I actually watched Morbius the other night because I needed to know. I needed to experience Morbin time. It's goofy. Yeah, it's bad, but it's not.
It's fun bad.
The worst thing I've ever. Yeah,
it's like
terrible.
the old fucking Lionsgate and Fox, Marvel movies. They're fun goofy. Unlike like the newest Fantastic Four was bad, like bad. But like the other Fantastic Fours were fun goofy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like that. Like Madam Web is bad though.
Yeah,
but like
that one I haven't seen yet. In fact, that might be a thing for me and JT to talk about the alternate stuff. And I know box office predictions just came out for Kraven the Hunter. They're predicting it to be lower than Morbius. I'm actually kind of excited for Kraven for several reasons. One, I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I've been a fan of his since Donnie Darko, Jarhead, and everything.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, Kick-Ass is playing Kraven, right? So.
Oh, sorry. I always get those two fucking mixed up. I'm sorry.
And I get it because similar roles lately, but like he was great in what was it, Bullet Train and a few other things recently. Like he's a good actor, so I mean I could see him being good in it.
Plus the Rhino as a bad guy, and it's not Paul Giamatti in a mech suit, so that's cool.
Yeah, like I mean it could be good. I'm expecting it to be as good as the Venom movies, which are the Venom movies are like they're fun movies. They're not high art.
Yeah, they're not MCU. Let's get that straight.
No, they are the best example of non-MCU, superhero movies that aren't Batman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they could have taken that character and turned it into the Punisher. It could have been gritty, dark, violent, and to a certain extent it should have been. Instead, we got a goofy bromance between Tom Hardy talking against himself, funny Mrs. Chen, and all this other crazy shit. It's fun.
The first one was the weakest one. The second one was good, but was limited with the fact that you got
Woody Harrelson.
You got Woody Harrelson 15 years too late to play the role believably. It was still good, but like I was watching it and I was like, oh man, like I looked at it and I was like, what if this was Natural Born Killers Woody that age,
or even Zombieland Woody?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's like 15 years too late, but realistically, if you had like 1995 Woody in that.
Cheers, Woody. So cheers.
White Men Can't Jump Woody. It would have been wild. It would have been wild. So he still did a great job, and that was a fun movie. I didn't get a chance to see the third one yet.
The third one's it's got some consistency problems. Like I think the biggest problem with the third one, and this will be my super mini review, like many adjacent Marvel projects, it's got a villain problem. Like same with it was the biggest problem I had with Beetlejuice is it had a villain problem. It introduces this villain you see in the marketing and they show up for 5 minutes. Venom: The Last Dance has one of the biggest cosmic threats to Marvel in a character named Null. I know the name is stupid. And hi, I'm a voice. Ooh, spooky. Like I feel like I'm doing the Razor Ramon hands at someone going, I'm a spooky guy. And it's just okay. And it's kind of lame. And I think in terms of the Venom movies, I would probably go, I think the first one's the best one, then The Last Dance, then Carnage. And the only reason I rank them like that is because Carnage is such a seminal character and such a powerful villain that they kind of downplayed him.
And it was Woody. He's
Yeah,
good.
and it was Woody, but you're right, about 15 years too late, and it needed like almost cartoonish levels of violence to make it Carnage. Carnage
Do
isn't that.
you know who would have been a good Carnage if it was 40 years ago?
Who?
Ed Harris
I
have
could
played it. Could have played a crazy Carnage.
Ed Harris, I think, would have played an interesting Eddie Brock if he played it around when he did The Rock, because when he buffs out, Ed Harris is built like a fucking tank, but the problem is he has permanent old man face. He looks like he's always been 50.
He looks like he it's like he you're right. I was gonna say, what's his name from I'm drawing a complete blank from the Godfather, the Consigliere.
Oh shit, the old guy. I know the guy you mean. I know exactly the guy you mean.
Oh, people are screaming at us already. What's his name? He's like a million years old. I think he's basically retired now.
And he's always been the same age since he came out of the womb. Yeah, I know exactly the guy you mean.
I'm pulling it up. What's it? Why am I drawing a blank?
I'll know his name as soon as you say it.
So am I, and I'm going to feel extremely stupid. It's just my brain is all loopy right now. The Robert Duvall.
Yeah, Robert Duvall. Yeah.
To me, it's like Ed Harris looks like old Robert Duvall before Robert Duvall was old.
It's so weird.
And he's younger than Robert Duvall. But like, as far as it goes, those are pretty good. Like, I don't think, but at the same time, I think that this Spider-Man franchise, or specifically the animated one, is their prestige one. It's the only animated feature superhero type thing, or even otherwise, that Sony has that is like full on Oscar bait, right?
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Oscar bait that also sells well, and has done really well for them. So I'd like to think that they don't want to fuck it up by using AI. But I also think that Sony might panic and might do that. I'm very worried that this production delay will lead them to cut corners with the animation because they're like, well, we can get it out 6 months earlier if we do this, and we need to get it out because we want to ensure we get 1 billion because we don't want the kids to age out of wanting to watch it.
Yeah, because like you think about what are the big animated properties right now in terms of what's been in theaters recently, and then we should probably kind of move on. But you think about this, you've got Spider-Man, Transformers, and Ninja Turtles, and with Paramount having its problems right now, Nickelodeon will finance it because they want something successful.
And they've also come right out and said, hey, Turtles specifically is in a healthy place. Like the video game came out that's based on the show that I played, and it's, I think, canon.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's pretty solid. You know what's crazy about it? And it'll probably make our gift guide list too, but it's like Persona. It's beat 'em up, you go around beat level, but in between levels you have a certain amount of time that you can spend with different characters, and that raises their like bond level, and raising the bond level like unlocks extra things in battles and stuff.
That's really cool. Yeah.
So it's funny, they've got that. Sorry, the cartoon show is on Paramount. I think it's on Nick and then Paramount Plus. That's the sequel to the movie. The show's out, season 1's out. They've already announced season 2 is in production. They got a movie for 2026, I think, is when the sequel movie's coming out. So like they're going strong. That is one property, and that sort of came out a little. People weren't expecting the movie to be that good or do that well.
You thought that movie would suck because of Seth Rogen. I'm like, give it a chance.
No, it wasn't because of Seth Rogen. I thought it would suck because of the actual teen voice actors, because generally people that are under the age of 20 are not the best voice actors. And it turned out that not only were the kids good, they were the right fit for that animation.
Like it worked. I was pleasantly surprised by it. Like it's one of those movies I really need to buy in 4K at some point, because we didn't get it for review a couple years ago.
Hyper stylized, but looks great.
Yeah, looks cool. All right, guys. So we're going to move on. We're going to cover this more in depth in like a week or two, but the Video Game Awards have just announced their nominees, and we're just going to go through each category super quick. And I'm just going to kind of read them off, and Alex, you can respond to them, and I'll throw in my 2 cents.
I'll say this right now: we can skip all of the like esports related ones.
Yeah, because there's not a single name that I recognize.
We don't
Not
recognize
one.
it. It's and for our listeners and audience, some might follow it, but I'd say for the most part, when it comes to esports, we're on the outer. Like you were more into it about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, when it was COD and Fortnite. Now I don't care.
And I feel like it's just my personal. I feel like it's not even like, oh, it's a generational issue where our generation isn't watching others. I don't think that the field has grown to the mainstream as much as they thought. I think it's become more popular, obviously, but insular within their own thing. I feel like people now know the esports teams, the esports athletes, the esports games, the coaches. I feel like people know less of them now than they did 5 years ago.
There is no breakout personality like your ninjas. There's no breakout personality like
the mainstream.
Like there's no one who has that mainstream. Be like, what is Ninja still streaming? Maybe, I guess, maybe PewDiePie. Fuck, I don't know.
And the content creator of the year, I've never heard of any of these people.
Let me take a look at that real fast.
Case O, Elo Juan, Techno Gamers, Typical Gamer, Usada, Picora. I feel like
Typical, maybe I've heard of, maybe.
I feel like all of the esports and the creator categories are very specific to like
TikTok,
the Korean and Southeast Asian market, and the South American markets are like. I feel like those two markets are the markets that have had the most growth in the space, and I've also noticed like the largest Twitch streamers are like Brazilian, where they get like 1 million people watching. It's become a thing in South America specifically, where it's like that's by far the largest Twitch streamers are like Spanish and Portuguese.
Oh wow!
More than like in language, more than anywhere else. Like it's actually kind of surprising. So we can skip those, not because we don't think they're valid, just because we have no knowledge and we don't even think our audience really cares.
Yeah, which is fine with me.
And if you do, let us know. We're not going to call you out, but if you do, then
let us know.
Let us know, and then we'll let you know that we're going to pay more attention to it.
Yeah. So, game of the year, we have Astrobot, Baltro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Air Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantasio.
Surprise Metaphor got there. I mean, it's the most recent game on the list, and it's also I'm still surprised that on Metacritic and OpenCritic it scored a point higher than Final Fantasy, because as much as I loved Metaphor, it's not a better game than Final Fantasy.
If I had to pick, I think honestly, it'll be between 3 games on there: Astrobot, Elden Ring. As much as I want to say Final Fantasy, I think Wukong is going to get. That'll be it. My pick would be Final Fantasy because that's what I played. Yeah, Astrobot looks fantastic.
I played Astrobot. Balatro was not for me. I get why people loved it. Black Myth I did not play. I am not interested.
It looked cool, but then I saw people playing it. I'm thinking that's too hard for me.
Character action corridor based, completely linear, Souls like gameplay, not for Alex. Same with Elden Ring. I don't think Elden Ring should be considered because
Souls games should almost be in their own category.
Elden Ring, while people love it, and there is it's an expansion with enough content to be considered a whole game. The difference is you still have to own the base game, so it should not be considered because there should be a category specifically for best expansion or downloadable content, or have that included with the ongoing game category.
Agreed.
And yes, there's a lot of discourse online about it. People are like, oh yes, no, Black could be considered. I'm sorry, it's not. Did you release this game as a separate game? For instance, like, and I'm not just saying like, oh, it means that it's restricted to retail. No, what I'm saying is, can you buy Shadow of the Erdtree by itself and play it without having to purchase the original game? The answer is no. So unless they did that, I don't think it can be considered a separate game. So I don't think it can win twice. You know what that's what I'm basically saying. But it's a very possibility it could win. I don't think it will. I do think you're right. I think it's between Astro, Black Myth, and Final Fantasy likely. I mean, Metaphor could win, but I would be surprised because I think Metaphor objectively is not better than those. I think it's a really good, really good game, but it just has the misfortune of coming out with these other games. But Balatro could take it because you never know, because never know the power of general audiences, right?
Best game direction, we have Astrobot, Bealtro, Black Myth, Wukong, Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor Refantazo.
That should be Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Final Fantasy should take that.
I think Final Fantasy will win best direction, and then I think either Astro or Black Myth will win game.
Best narrative, we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Metaphor Refantazo, Setsuna Saga, Hellblade 2, Silent Hill 2. I think that'll go between Like a Dragon and Setsuna. And the reason I say that, Like a Dragon,
Sen was not going to win. Everybody hated the game.
See, I think it's because it's that weird dark horse. I think it stands a chance. But my personal pick would be Rebirth, personally.
Yeah, narrative, it's probably going to be Final Fantasy. Metaphor, again, great game, good story, but nothing unpredictable, nothing exceptional in the story. It's one of those games where the sum of its parts end up being amazing, but if you break it down individually, it's not as good as Persona 5. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if this was the year that Persona 5 Royal came out against Rebirth, just like 5, like there was the argument that when 5 Royal came out against the original Final Fantasy remake, there was an argument that it was the better narrative. And I would say it probably was a better narrative than remake. Rebirth is on a whole other level when it comes to just how much narrative is packed in there. So I think it'll probably be Final Fantasy that wins that. But at the same time, Infinite Wealth is super weird and fun and continues, like, we're talking 8 games deep into a story right now, right? So
And then we have, going up for best art direction, we have Astrobot, Black Myth, Wukong, Elden Ring, Metaphor Refantazo, and Neva. My pick would be Astrobot. Likely thing, it'll be between the two Souls games, personally.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get to play Neva, so don't count out the indie game that might just, throw. I think that's the one with the deer.
I think so. Best score in music, Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor Refantazo, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade I played. I didn't love it, but the music was really good.
That's I think the dark horse for the music. Yeah,
if I had to pick Final Fantasy VII, Silent Hill 2 could also take it. I really think so. Astro
has great music, but a lot of it's recycled from the previous game.
Yeah.
I think that Final Fantasy should win based on the volume of music and variety. You know how, like, there's multiple versions of every track and it's so memorable, but there's always that thing in the back of my head that goes, well, it's still, as much as they produced a lot of new music for it, it's still based upon music from 25 years ago. So I would say, there's strong contenders here. I think it might go to Metaphor.
Okay.
The guy that did the score for it has done a lot of the other Atlas stuff. It's the first time he's ever done a fantasy score. Okay. And it was, when you think about, like, general public, people that don't play RPGs were going nuts for it on TikTok and that, because it's the one that has all like the battle theme is like the guy chanting like spells and stuff, like blah, 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 like all the chanting and all the like it's so out there and different. And you got to think like we got to think outside of the box. What it's not just like obviously fans voting on things, but they also consider things when it comes to scores, as in like has it had an effect on the general public, and like TikToks and memes are being made of it. I didn't see any memes being made for, and not like bad memes, but like, you know, like people like making fun and doing cool stuff. None of these other games had an effect on social media.
Yeah.
But Metaphor did.
Looking next at our next couple categories, we have Best Audio Design with Astrobot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Setsuna Saga, Hellblade 2, Silent Hill 2. My pick here,
This will probably be Senwa.
yeah, Senwa, maybe Black Ops. We'll have to wait and see. This category is interesting to me. Best Performance. I think there's a clear winner here. I think it's some of these actors I've never heard of. So Hannah Tell from Life is Strange Double Exposure, Brianna White from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Humberly Gonzalez from Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts, Silent Hill 2, Melina Jurgens from Setsuna Saga, Hellblade 2. Aerith should, yeah, she fucking well better.
She won Best Supporting at the Golden Joysticks last week.
Yeah, I think
and I believe the lead winner was the dude that does Cloud.
Yeah, which
so
is cool.
I don't think that that's an exaggeration, that it should be basically a sweep of pretty much all of the voice. Like this isn't like last year, you know, where, you know, it was clear that Baldur's Gate was going to win everything when it comes to voice acting of any category. There's a lot of strong performances here. I haven't played Silent Hill 2, but I hear the voice acting is pretty good. Senwa is, you know, needed because it's a lot of like personal narration. I don't know why Outlaws is there. Is it because they just didn't have enough people? Voice acting's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just nothing special. It's just...
Yeah, and Life is Strange Double Exposure, I'm working on my review now, and I can see it because of what it is, but like, you want to talk about the range of emotions, the range of things, it's pretty clear that you could have potentially filled this entirely with Final Fantasy people this year. Although I do think, you know, not that I'm never going to say like these people weren't deserving, obviously, right? Like they're all really good voice actors, but I do think one or two categories here could have been pulled out, and you could have slotted in something from the English cast of Like a Dragon.
Yeah. Moving on to Innovation in Accessibility, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age The Veilguard, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and Star Wars Outlaws. I think this will go to COD. I really do. We know people on the dev team.
It's either going to be COD, or it could be Dragon Age or Star Wars for the variety of options, because I'm playing both. Mm-hmm. I know that they do have a lot. Diablo, I don't know.
I don't recall anything spectacular in that, but I'm also not remembering a whole lot of it.
But it's never a surprise to see two Ubisoft titles on here, because they're sort of the out of like the non.
Them and Sony are the gold standard for
outside of first party developers. Like Ubisoft is by far the king of accessibility. They're really good at that. Like, say what you will about their games, their loops, their corporate culture, the stuff that's gone on. They have been the last 10 years pretty much like the best at forwarding accessibility options.
Moving on to our next category is Games for Impact, with games such as Closer the Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Setsuna Saga, Hellblade 2, and Tales of Cursia, Zao. I'm guessing if that Zao game is the one that I think it is.
It's the one with the African
that'll
mythology.
get it.
I was going to say, for political reasons and for just like importance of a culture that isn't usually spotlighted, I could see that winning. It's probably that, Indica, or Neva, if I had to guess.
Best ongoing game, Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, I think, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2.
It's going to be either 14 or Helldivers.
I don't think I want Helldivers to win. I think it'll be Diablo. I really do.
It's yeah, okay, you know what? This year, because of the expansion and that, it's either Diablo or Final Fantasy, because those two, they both had big expansions this year.
Best community support is Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, No Man's Sky. If there is a just creator in the universe, Baldur's Gate 3, since they just introduced mod support across everything.
Either Baldur's Gate or No Man's, because No Man is constantly having updates.
Yeah,
and community support.
I'd like to see Helldivers. I've played that a little bit this year, and I really like what I've played, but I just don't see it, which really sucks. Best independent game: Animal Well, Bealtro, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, UFO 50. I played none of these.
This is stacked. So I'll give you the quick skinny. Bealtro is the card game that took the world by storm. It's very easily could be the one that wins here. Mm-hmm. So is Animal Well. Animal Well is actually on PS Plus. You can download it. It is the game that looks like neon LED light lit. It almost looks like the graphics are almost looking at a Tiger Electronics game. You know, like that sort of look. Mm-hmm. But is Metroidvania, like you're figuring out each room as a puzzle, how to get through, and then you're backtracking when you get new powers and all that. And there's weird stuff going on, but it has this like ethereal 1980s neon, but like lo-fi look. Really cool, really cool looking. I could see that winning. Lorelei and Laser Eyes, that's I think an Annapurna game with like puzzles and stuff. It could win in any other year. It won't win this year. It's gonna Neva could win, but if it doesn't already win like the games for Impact or something. UFO 50, that's the game where it's 50 games. The idea was, what if you found a game console that people forgot about from the late 80s? Mm-hmm. And you just found that's like the actual narrative. You as a person find a game console with 50 games in a box, and you're like, it's a forgotten console. I'm going to play them. And as you play the games, the idea is, it's like, what if the NES, you know how the NES was from like 1985 to 1994, over the course of the 50 games within there's like multiple games and multiple made up franchises, and some of the later games on the console have better graphics and do better things because it's evolved over time, like naturally does. It's like you're playing a slice of like real life, but it's 50 real games made from like 50 different developers put together. It was a project that was in the works for like 10 years.
That's really cool.
And the only thing holding it back is right now it's currently only on Steam. So maybe it'll get ported to Switch and other things later on. But like, I would like to almost see that win just based on principle. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be Bealtro or Animal Well. And the same thing goes for the next category, Best Debut Indie Game. You've got Bealtro, Animal Well, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, and Plucky Squire. Plucky Squire didn't end up being as good as I thought it was going to be, but it's still worth playing, especially since it's on Game Pass. Or no, it's on PS Plus. Maybe it's on Game Pass. But these two categories, Best Indie Game and Best Debut, one of them or both of them is either going to be Bealtro or Animal Well. It's just that's just what it's going to be right now. If it's anything else, people will be like, "What?" I mean, I kind of hope that UFO 50 wins, but I don't think so. I'm just glad it's nominated.
We're just going to kind of skim some of these next categories. In terms of best mobile game, I think the one that caught a lot of people's attention was the Pokemon trading card game Pocket. That got a lot of people talking about the card game again. I think Bealtro will win best VR AR game. I don't fucking know.
It's probably going to be Asgard's Wrath is apparently pretty good. Metro. It's probably going to be Batman Arkham Shadow.
Best action game, Black Myth, Call of Duty, Helldivers, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine.
It's either Black Myth or Stellar, but it's probably Black Myth.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Best action adventure game, Astrobot, Prince of Persia, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. Astrobot, I think, should take that, or Silent Hill 2.
Okay, if Astro doesn't win the category later on for family game, it's going to be, this is either Zelda or Astro. I think this should be Astro.
Mm-hmm. Best RPG. This is a fantastically stacked category.
This is the hard one.
Yeah. Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Metaphor, Re-Phantasmo. From what I've played, Final Fantasy, I think this will likely go to Elden Ring, just because it's Elden Ring.
I think this is what Metaphor is going to win.
I hope
It's a pure, like, if Metaphor wasn't here, I'd say I'd hope that, fingers crossed, it was Like a Dragon, or one of the other games like Dragon Quest, but that was, I think, past the cutoff date. Like, there's a lot of other RPGs that could have been included. This was a big RPG year. You had Grand Link Fantasy, you had Persona 3 Reload, or was that might have been the fall last year, but it's like there was Persona 3 Reload was February. So like there's a lot of shit this year. And as much as I'd like to see Final Fantasy win this, I would prefer it to win like the bigger thing, like the game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is either going to be Final Fantasy or Metaphor. But I think it's like a pure RPG with pure RPG elements. I think Metaphors should win this one.
This is a category that is very difficult for me. Best fighting game: Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, Rising, Dragon Ball, Sparking Zero, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, Arcade Classics, Multiverses, and Tekken 8. What I want to win is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, because I'm having a fantastic time with that. Although the player base has shifted in that game. I literally play this game for an hour every day in ranked, in singles, and DP. And I'm actually climbing the ladder. Like, I'm spanking kids with Raditz and Super Vegeta. And then the other times kids spam Ultra Instinct Goku, and there's not a lot that I can do. But other times I can kick the shit out of a Gogeta with Yamcha, and I have a great day. But Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, look, I'm not going to lie. I did say this on Twitter that I think that might be my game of the year. Since Dragon Ball's come out, I've changed my opinion. Multiverses does not belong here, in my opinion. I think Mortal Kombat 11's DLC should have got a nod.
It already won 2 years ago.
Yeah, like
it literally won this category. You cannot win twice just because you pulled a game from the market and then re-released it with some updates. It's the same game, but improved. Yeah. You should have put this into the best ongoing category.
Tekken 8, I do have this game. I haven't had a chance to mess around with it. I did have one of the other people who works with the show who is a Tekken fanatic, and I'm going to get their opinion on it in like about a week or so.
I would say it should be either Tekken or Dragon Ball.
Yeah, like Capcom did the community a favor. And like, hell, I remember I've said the show, like, this will never happen. I will pay $100 for this. I didn't have to.
I wouldn't be surprised if it wins.
I hope so. That means Marvel 4 might happen.
As much as a political thing in my head, and I'm like, we shouldn't be giving things like, I almost feel like it needs to win to prove to corporate in Japan that, hey, look at, if it's winning awards, we have to do more of these. I almost feel like there might be a subconscious push with the critics and the voting committee to make like how when you vote sometimes for municipal or provincial or state elections, you might end up voting strategically because you're like, it might not be what I think should win, but it's something that needs to win. It might be one of those situations.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Moving on to our next category, Best Family Game: Princess Peach Showtime, Astrobot, Super Mario Party Jamboree, The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom, Plucky Squire. My opinion, Super Mario Party, best Mario Party there's been in years.
It's either like
or Astrobot.
Like Echoes of Wisdom it's a great game, but like
I've heard nobody talk about it. Not one fucking person.
It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's great, but like, this is a year where we had a lot better games.
Didn't Ken review that for us? It was either you or Ken who did it, and like, I don't remember a goddamn thing. No one's talking about a Zelda game this year.
I think there was some controversy. There was some people like, oh, it's a woke one. You're playing as the girl and she can't fight. Oh, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck off.
It's. I don't know if it's a family game though. I feel like it's like category wise, it's almost like it would fit into a category with like puzzle.
Yeah.
If they brought a category in that was like best puzzle or visual or like Best puzzle slash I don't know what the category. It would probably have to be under puzzle or some sort of category like that. Best puzzle or adventure game, and not like action adventure, like puzzle or adventure. I feel like it would win there, but this is also Astro's year to lose. More, you know what I mean? Category. Plucky didn't do as well as people were expecting. Princess Peach, while fun, even as a family game, has performance issues and didn't review quite as well. So you're right. It's either going to be Super Mario Party or Astro for this.
Best Sim/strategy game: Frostpunk 2, Age of Mythology Retold, Wonders or Worlds, or sorry, yeah, Retold, Katsuni Gami, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. I've played none of these.
I would love Unicorn to win. It's really good. Kanitsugami, I don't think will win. It's cool that it's nominated because it like both Unicorn and Kanitsugami feel like games from the bygone era of like the PS1/PS2. Manor Lords I've heard good things of. Age of Mythology is a remake. Sure. Frostpunk, Kanitsugami. I think this might be Unicorn Overlord. I just get a feeling that Vanillaware is going to get something finally, and Sega's going to be like, holy shit, we got something.
Best sports/racing game: F1 24, EA Sports, FC 25, NBA 2K25, Top Spin 2K25, and WWE 2K24. Only one I've played on this list is 2K24. It's fine.
I've gotten outside of the FC game. I believe we've gotten most of these for gift guide consideration. From what I've sampled, Top Spin was the most fun for me personally, and I could see that winning. Like NBA gets too much shit for being like very
heavy.
Yeah, F124 is a good racing game, but like I
It's
feel
no
like
Forza.
I feel like it was there because there weren't any other big racing games, and then what was it? The one that was most anticipated, which was Lost Crown. What's the Test Drive? It was really anticipated, and then it flopped when it came out. It just wasn't as good as people were expecting, like to the point where they were supposed to be giving out like review copies to everybody, and then they like review copies didn't come out till like 2 days before the game, and it's like, when I heard that, I was like, this game's gonna have trouble, and then it turned out Nacon had some trouble with it. So
yeah,
and then WWE is like, nothing changes. You know what I mean? Like you look at this stuff, but
the
this
story
is like,
mode, and that's pretty much about it. Maybe some changes in the manager mode, but yeah, it's fairly consistent year to year.
I think Top Spin, I believe this might be like, I think the first time it's been out in years, right? Like, because
it's been a while. Yeah,
we used to get a lot of tennis games back in the day, and I just feel like, it's been forever, so it's nice that we have one out, and also it plays well. I think this is like the first year in a long time that we haven't had like an actual like Forza or like a golf game or something included in there, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, out of all of these, I mean this. FC gets a lot of shit because obviously that's what the old FIFA game was, but they lost the license. Yeah. I just get the feeling I think it might be Top Spin.
I hope so. Best multiplayer game: Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. In terms of multiplayer, Mario Party should get this. I mean, COD is COD. Yeah. Helldivers is fun. Mario Party is a family game that everybody can play, and you can play online, and there's a single player mode. Tekken 8, and Warhammer
that might be the dark horse because there's like a 3-player co-op.
See, if I would swap out Tekken 8 for Dragon Ball, because you can have tournaments in that. There's a wonderful online community. There's a modding community. Just Tekken. Why?
And we've been playing Black Ops. Like I played the main, like playing the campaign. Fantastic campaign. I don't really dabble much into the multiplayer. I've wanted to do some zombies and stuff, and I hear I haven't been hearing
It's
great
gotten
things.
it's gotten better since they've done some tweaks, but it's
So
still not as fun as Cold Wars was.
so I feel like, Helldivers is a massively multiplayer game. Like, does that count? Like, best multiplayer, when I think of regular multiplayer, I think, one-on-one or groups of teams. I don't think of massive, like, where the whole game is just multiplayer.
Yeah.
But I get it. But you're right. I think like that this might be the category for Mario Party because I've heard nothing but great things.
Best adaptation: Arcane, Fallout, Knuckles, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara
Um,
Croft, Fallout.
It's
No
Fallout.
question. Yeah, no question.
Knuckles. I got 2 episodes in and went nope.
I'm gonna watch it before Sonic 3, but only because, well, I don't know if they'll do any callbacks, so I need to
Like
know.
a Dragon
It
is
looks great.
no good.
Really?
Oh, it completely deviates. Completely new story. They lie. They lie. It didn't follow anything to do with the games.
Lara Croft, I
except the
hear, is just
character
another
names.
Netflix series. It just looks the same
Yeah.
animation, which is fine, but
And in any other year, Arcane would win. But this is Fallout, baby. This is like, I mean, this would be real. Okay, the only real competition for Fallout would have been like, what if The Last of Us had a season this year at the same time?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. And then finally, most anticipated game: Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, Ghost of Yotai. Is that the Ghost of Tsushima sequel?
Yes.
Okay. Grand Theft Auto 6, Metroid Prime 4, Beyond, Monster Hunter Wild, GTA, not even a question.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick, Ghost. And I love the Grand Theft Auto games. They're fun. They're stupid.
Yeah.
They're dumb. They're fun.
If we're basing it on my personal, I think Ghost of Yotai is the most interesting looking one.
Mm-hmm.
When I say anticipation, like I've played GTA games. I can tell you this right now. I have never, ever once actually played a GTA game where I played the missions. Ever.
GTA 5 is the closest one to having a real... Okay, that's not fair. 4 was really good and had really good DLC. Grand Theft Auto 5 had an amazing campaign, and I had a friggin'
and that's
blast.
what I hear. I've never I played the opening, but like GTA 1, I think I played a little bit of GTA 2.
Yeah.
I didn't. GTA 3, I was sort of like mesmerized by it because that was so insane to me when I was in like the 9th grade. I think when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
Vice City, I played like 100 hours.
Vice City is going to be Grand Theft Auto 6, more or less.
Well, I think I played Vice City for 100 hours, and I realized I don't know what the story is. All I ended up doing almost ever, like I didn't know what my friend did. I would just go to his house, and we played like hours and hours together. And all I would do is just get in a car, turn the radio on, drive, get out and shoot people. Like I never did anything. I never like. So I like having a tighter narrative than what's here. My brother has told me, he's like, just play 5 now, that especially 5 I think just got the PS5, like the enhanced version.
Yes.
Just came on, like I think it just came on PS Plus. So he was like, activate that shit, just play it.
Yeah.
And I was like, he goes, it's going to be the best version of it. And he's like, because he had done like the full campaign. He's like, oh, it's great. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, with the 3 characters jumping between them, it's fantastic. He goes, play that shit before the next game comes out, because all you're going to hear for like 6 months to a year is nothing but nonstop GTA 6. I'm like, it's clear this is like, there's nothing else that can win this category.
Yeah, it's going to be GTA or Ghost. If Death Stranding wins, maybe if Kojima happens to be there,
if he wins, they will throw rotting cabbage at Jeff on stage, like if he wins, because that Death Stranding, like we played it. I mean, as an art piece, it's an interesting thing. It's a fucking terrible game from an actual gameplay standpoint.
Oh yeah,
And, like I'm sorry, like it's. I strongly believe it needs to exist and needs to get awards for its artistic direction. It plays like a terrible game. And like I have no interest other than like, okay, I have the interest from the story standpoint and just how the experience is going to be weird. So I like, if we get the chance to review it, I'll be very happy to see where that goes. because I want to experience it, but I am dreading the gameplay.
Yeah.
I am not looking forward to actually playing the game. So I don't think anybody is like anybody outside of like people that are obsessed with Kojima for Kojima's sake are looking for that. I think Ghosts of Yotai, well, we like it. There's some discourse around it because you're playing as a girl. It's like, oh, again,
Who
fuck
gives a
off.
shit? It's gonna be awesome.
It's like you realize it's done by the studio that made probably one of the best games of the last 15 years with the last one. Like
Yeah.
they somehow made the open world not feel boring or extravagant. Monster Hunter Wilds, there's going to be fans out there that are obviously very happy that that's their game they're most anticipating. I feel like there is just as many people that have Monster Hunter as Monster Hunter Wild as their anticipated game as Metroid Prime 4.
Yep.
Yotai maybe slightly less. Death Stranding is probably the least of the bunch. Like GTA 6 is the most anticipated game because there are people like there's plenty of people, and I mean like millions of people who only play like COD. They play they'll play COD, they'll play Madden, and they play GTA. Those are their 3 games that they play, period. So like there are people that have been waiting for that, like as hyped as you and I were for Final Fantasy Remake, that's how hyped like 100 times the amount of people are for Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. And then to finally round things out, and I do not know any of the content creators of the year, but I'm going to submit my own choice in here. Scott the Woz. That guy is consistent. He's funny. He's a bit of a strange duck, but I like him. Or if he was still making videos, the gaming historian. Norm could have been on here at some point.
I almost feel like there should be like, how award shows do special awards, that they do like one a year for like, not like lifetime achievement. I do think there should be a lifetime achievement award that they put in. I think that for game creators and directors,
I guarantee you
there should be one for, a lifetime achievement for creators, like, because we hear things like Uematsu is retiring from doing soundtracks. He should get there should be a special lifetime achievement award specifically for him. They should do one of those. And then as far as content creators, there could be a special award like for, like content creator of the decade. And I almost feel like, even though he's not like the most popular in the world, I feel that Norm deserves an award for the last 10 years of what he did, because so many things that he did, people were inspired to make their own really deep, in-depth, high-quality productions. I know that isn't he working on a movie or something, or like a feature-length documentary?
That or a book or something, yeah.
And then he's basically done. I mean, you say done, like dude's only like, he's like our age, he's like late 30s or early 40s, right? So
yeah.
Don't say done forever, but I think done from regular production. And you know what? I didn't mind that the last few years he had gone to like basically
longer form doc,
being like 4 or 5 a year at the most, or 1 or 2 a year, because if it's that good, it's that good. I feel like all the creators and all its categories, they're for Gen Z at this point. It's not like they're not for us, because I feel like when you look at content creator of the year, best esports athlete, best esports game, best esports team, at least there's no coach one on here this year. All those categories, they're for people that don't play games. They're for people that just watch games.
I mean,
so it's a different category. Like, you almost have to spend the majority of your entertainment time being a viewer. Like, I don't know very many people that play video games on the regular that have the time to watch enough that they could be invested in these categories.
Like, the only thing here I have even a remote interest in saying best esports game And the only reason I know about it is because of Daniel Bosch, aka Fuya. She just played in a Twitch Rivals tournament that I think somebody put on, and her team won. League. League has had an amazing scene behind it. You know, think about the company, whatever. But League's community, it is what it is, and people like it and people support it. Why Valorant is still on here? I guess I'm that far removed from it. Sure.
Well, especially since the hate that they have online, and they have like the expensive skins, like. For a long time now, I'm not doing conspiracy theories, but for a long time now, people have thought that Valorant pays to get on these shows, not this particular show, but that they sponsor so much and spend so much money that it feels like they're always added to categories and added to shows because of their sponsorship status. And obviously that's heavy accusations to make, but nobody likes that game. And the people, like even the people that content creators that make games for it have openly admitted that they're paid to play. Like I don't get it. It's not all the others on there have dedicated fan followings of like just regular people playing. Do you know of anybody that plays Valorant that isn't a professional or paid to play the games?
Content creators, I might know one or two for leisure. Not a soul.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know anybody that actually wants to play Valorant themselves.
Yeah. And then when it comes to esports athlete, I recognize none of these names. Esports teams, I recognize none of these names. And it's not to say that they don't contribute something to the space, but
yeah,
I don't know you. And since Call of Duty leagues had its own issues last couple years.
I think I've heard of Team Liquid, the Dota 2 team. I think I've heard of them. But like esports athlete, like 33, and I'm looking at Alex Chovy and the Faker. I think I've heard of Faker.
Faker sounds familiar.
I think that I think via osmosis I've heard of that name. The last two names are just like the cat walked across the keyboard. Capital Z, lowercase y,
like
W-O, and then 0.
They must play League or something.
And then the last one was ZMJJKK. It's literally like my cat fell asleep on the keyboard.
Yeah, like I would just call him Zing or Yong Kang. Like,
Now, Zing. I think ZH is like Sh, so like Sheng Yong Kang, like the actual player.
Mm-hmm.
I that name where I say it looks like they walked across the keyboard. It's probably letters for acronyms for.
I'm gonna Google him right now, live on the show.
The Z at the beginning is probably for the person's name, beginning of the name, and then the rest could be like, like
he plays Valorant.
Oh, then it's bullshit. It's a paid for person.
Like,
I'm sorry.
I figured League, but right, whatever.
Z-Woo or Zaiwu, the Matthew Herbert one. That looks completely random. Like you just typed in something. Faker, Chovy, Alexiv. Alexiv makes sense because it's actually the person's first name mixed with the thing. 33. I don't know how somebody got the name 33 as a handle. How'd you get that? Are you like 75 years old and you saw? That's like saying like, oh, what'd you get? I got Alex at Hotmail. Just first name. It's like, what? Did you sign up for an email address in 1993? Like, how do you get a name that short to be an actual gamer tag? Unless it's not the gamer tag, and that's just how they are on screen. They probably have a different name. But no, they can't, because these have to be the actual channels and people they go under. So interesting. I know we went rambling off the thing, but like these like esports athletes. I mean, do they need an award? Because isn't their award the fact that they win trophies already? Like, I don't know why is there a category for best esports athlete when we already know who the best esports athlete is because they already win championships.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's my argument. And I know that you can say, well, people in sports win, special awards and all. It's like, yeah, but usually those special awards are given to them with, within their own league. Like it's not like Jeff's a governing body over esports. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Like this is clearly just a popularity contest for these ones completely. And esports team, I can see that being a category because then it's just like, hey, you used to follow certain esports teams, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
I can understand the idea of, at that point, you're not just saying who the best player is, you're saying who has the best cohesive team, and it's almost like you're voting on who has the best, not just team, but like outside of the gameplay, like who has the best social media, who has the most fun fandom.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Like I want a community when I'm doing this
Yeah.
sort of thing. And while I haven't been actively involved in a lot of streamers, just because I don't have time anymore and it sucks. And I feel so bad. Like these are people I've built relationships with. I don't have time to dedicate to the scene anymore. And maybe
So, like,
it's just 'cause I'm getting older.
So I get the esports team being a thing. I don't get the individual athlete. Maybe it's just me. I just don't get it. I know that it's for a certain person, but like that's, I don't know. Like we're awarding games. We're not awarding people that play games. Is my argument.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News Network, an extended thing. Now that's me and Alex back on the show.
But yeah,
so now
it's sort of a preview because we're only like 2 weeks away from the actual Game Awards, right? So it's time to sort of give our 2 cents on it because we're not getting together to do a prototype before then.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, guys, we're going to take a break here on thisweekingeek.net, and we're going to take a break and go back to 1959 as we take a look at one of the most important films that has probably been made. I would almost be certain this is in the Library of Congress. This is my review from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment of the 4K Ultra HD version of North by Northwest by famed director Alfred Hitchcock. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on thisweekingeek.net.
I'm an advertising man, not a red herring. I've got a job, a secretary, a mother, 2 ex-wives, and several bartenders dependent upon me. And I don't intend to disappoint them all by getting myself slightly killed.
Cary Grant becomes a secret agent against his will. Propelled at gunpoint onto the highest level of international intrigue and framed for murder. Cary Grant, running for his life, searching for a man who doesn't exist, and a secret nobody knows, and finding a blonde who has all the answers.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something really cool we got from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. I'm talking about the 4K Ultra HD with a digital code version of North by Northwest, the critically acclaimed film by Alfred Hitchcock. If you can believe it, this is actually the first Hitchcock movie I've ever seen. That's right, I haven't seen Psycho, I haven't seen Dial M for Murder, I haven't seen Vertigo, I haven't seen The Birds. I used to watch Alfred Hitchcock Presents when I was a kid, because I want to say the Disney Channel showed it, or at least that's what I think I saw it. And I also had like a Halloween tape that had like stories that were read by him. Either that or that's the Mandela effect. Anyway, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you know that scene in movies where you see a biplane chasing a guy down in a cornfield that happened in The Simpsons? I'm pretty sure it's happened in Family Guy. Pretty sure it's probably even happened in South Park at some point. This is where that's from. And this follows the story of Cary Grant playing a advertising executive named Roger Thornhill who gets caught up in a case of mistaken identity that leads him across North America and eventually ends in a pretty climactic fight on top of Mount Rushmore. And it's pretty friggin' cool. I mean, all things considered, I was actually super impressed by this movie. Like, so much so, I kind of want to do an episode on Alfred Hitchcock with Dave and Ken at some point. So, yeah, not gonna lie, this was actually pretty cool. I was very, very impressed by it. I think this is maybe one of my first Cary Grant movies I've ever seen. I know my buddy Enrique would be shocked at this. But, yeah, I really liked it. The movie looks fantastic. Now, obviously, because it was shot back in, I want to say, 1959, there are some special effects that look a little bit weird when they get, juxtapositioned onto a modern television screen. That's just kind of the way it is. But it looks awesome. It sounds great, dude. The score in this is, it's really good. But what sets this apart for me is the amount of special features. There's a commentary on here. There are really long special features. One of them is like 40 minutes. It's basically like a mini documentary. Another one's like 20 minutes. You get a little thing from Alfred Hitchcock, which is like a guided tour of North by Northwest, and you get some other stuff. So I wonder if that's like an early EPK or something. But still, I was surprised by the amount of material here. Honestly, I wish more companies would do stuff like this. And I reviewed this a couple of weeks ago, by this point. When I got Beetlejuice, I said this is what determines my buying power when it comes to physical media. The amount of special features and effort that goes into it. North by Northwest is a fantastic example of what happens when you get someone who really cares for the film and someone who really wants you to know the history of it. So we're getting good special features. I honestly don't know if these are archival. I would wager probably. But either way, it's pretty awesome. It's a fantastic movie. And if you know someone who wants to watch a Alfred Hitchcock movie and you're looking for a really good entry point, I got a feeling you're probably not going to do too much better than North by Northwest. Seriously, this was fantastic. Probably one of the best discs I've looked at this year when it comes to content and when it comes to the movie, picture and sound, second to none. Seriously, cannot recommend North by Northwest enough. So once again, thanks to our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. And this might just end up on my holiday gift guide at the end of the year.
Have you planned your vacation yet? You've a choice between sand and sunburn or mountain climbing and the Charlie horse. I find it all very enervating, but we should all have some kind of holiday. So my suggestion is a quiet little tour, say about 2,000 miles. I have just made a motion picture, North by Northwest, to show you some of these delights.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey guys, welcome back to This Week in Geek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. He's Alex, the producer. I really liked that Alfred Hitchcock movie. I used to watch, like I said, Alfred Hitchcock Presents as a kid. I did not expect that to be that good, so maybe me and Ken will have to do something with Alfred Hitchcock on Loose Cannon. I've never seen Dial M for Murder. I've never seen Vertigo. Guess I've got some stuff to possibly check out in the future. All right, Alex, so we're going to bring you the weird news. And I know you've been gone a while, so your world has been relatively normal when not involving almost dying.
Yes.
Allow me to fuck up that streak. Now, coming to us from ctvnews.ca, police thought this gnome looked out of place. Then they tested it for drugs. In a recent narcotics investigation, Dutch police say they found a garden gnome that appeared out of place. Until they tested it for drugs, they discovered the gnome is made of approximately 2 kilograms of MDMA, according to a translated Facebook post from the Polite Bestium Donemaguard in the Netherlands. MDMA is a synthetic party drug, also known as ecstasy. Police did not say what part of the country the gnome was found in. The Facebook page says the force operates in the municipality of Oosterhout in Gutenberg, Demetren and Alatina near the border with Belgium. The translated post says that the drugs come in many shapes and sizes, but every now and again, the police come across something, quote, special. It said the gnome appeared to be shocked by its circumstances, jokingly referring to the statue's pose, holding its hand over its mouth, and suggesting that Dutch authorities have a sense of humor with where delinquent gnomes are heard. Evidently, there's a weird gnome thing with like certain underground cultures. I found out it's like a swingers thing. I'm like,
oh my
what?
God. Did you fall down a rabbit hole?
I was listening. I found this story courtesy of Internet Today, which is that show that I watch on YouTube. And I was like, what? And I was listening to it and I'm like, what? And I'm like, Jesus. And evidently, it's not uncommon for people in the drug trade to make unusual items out of the drugs that they manufacture, like, you know, as like something for a laugh, something kind of funny. And, you know, you think about the Narcos that came out a couple of years ago, and you think about all the stuff we've heard about Pablo Escobar, the Mexican cartels, and while being vicious criminals whom you do not want to fuck with, some of them have a sense of humor or a sense of style. I've heard about stylized weapons that look like something out of a Call of Duty game.
It makes me think of that sitcom The League that was about of fantasy football. In that, one guy had turned cocaine into a toilet seat, and and the one guy's like, he puts it in his place, and the other guy walks in, and he's like, I don't know, I just can't stop going to the bathroom at your place. I feel so good after he's sitting down and he's like anally absorbing cocaine into his system. And at another part in the episode, one guy goes to like barf into the toilet, and he like leans, like falls, and has his face in it, and he goes, like, he sniffs, he's like, and he goes, uh-oh, and it's just him scratching at it, trying to eat the toilet seat because it's a cocaine lid. And I was like, that's what that made me think of there. It's like, oh, but yeah, anyway, sorry for the sidetrack.
But yeah, it's so strange with like drug culture. I mean, like, you think about the weird things that like people have found. Like, I know there's been, like I said, weapons that have been stylized. They've got like gold inlays and bizarre, furniture on them. And, that's to be expected. They're pretty bad dudes.
If I ever come across a like handgun or a rifle that is done up with gold to look like something out of like something out of the Spanish Inquisition, from the Middle Ages, that's when I scream in my head internally and go, there's a cartel nearby and I would like to not be here.
Yeah. You know what's funny? So I fell down a rabbit hole.
Or if you go into a restaurant and you see that shit there, and it's a cartel restaurant, the food's going to be probably pretty good though.
It's so strange. I fell down a rabbit hole, and I think it was from the YouTube Sunny V2, a pretty significant YouTuber, if I'm not mistaken, but he did a video, and it was telling about YouTubers and TikTokers who've pissed off the cartel. They will kill you.
Oh, yeah.
There's been multiple examples of this in recent years, and some people are able to beg for their life and they get forgiven. And I was kind of like, wow, that really does happen. But one guy they called out, I'm not mentioning his name just in case, but
it's just inappropriate to do
yeah,
so.
Yeah, it's just, I worry. And he's like, suck my wiener. And I'm thinking, well, why would you say that to someone is dangerous and harmful? And
I'm sorry. I hope it wasn't like as many. I hope it was, hey, yeah, Mr. Cartel guy, suck my ween.
It was so dumb. And then the following day, something happened. I think like the cartel reached out to him and said, hey, man, you better watch your back. And then he made an apology, and he was like, hey, I was out of my head. I was this, that, and the other thing. And someone had wrote on his YouTube channel, like, this apology just saved your life. And it was. Then another guy who had like a music career, who made it out of, he was known for being drunk, and he publicly called out the cartel. So he went to a nightclub where he was doing an appearance, and he pinned his location on Facebook saying, hey, I'm going to be here tonight doing a bottle signing or whatever. Right. So a couple of guys pull up in a black SUV. They'd never caught the guys. They could have wasted everybody in the building. They aimed specifically for him and politely left. And everybody in the building was like, we could have all died tonight. They came looking for you. And I was like, Jesus. And that's kind of crazy too, because like we've had people, and we're not going to mention names because they're notoriously litigious, we shall say. If you say anything negative against them, they will come after you. And I don't know, it makes me think.
At that point, it's not about whether or not they'll win court cases. It's
just getting you in the room.
They do it knowing that you'll suffer through financial hardships just by forcing yourself through legal protections and issues. Like, their hope is not even necessarily to win a case. It's to make you punished and suffer.
Yeah,
and it's like that's the full on bullying that sometimes rich people can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I know in the States they have, I want to say it's called slap suits or anti-slap suits.
And we have that here too, but the problem is you still need to be able to have the money to challenge that.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yeah, like it's crazy. And I don't know, like, don't piss off the wrong people. And I say that as someone who speaks truth to power against authorities. But at the same time, I recognize, don't piss off, Pablo Escobar, so to speak, right?
Well, there is a difference between pissing off somebody who might be litigious and pissing off somebody who might just wipe your family out.
Yeah, exactly. It's not me going after Pablo. It's more like me saying, "Hey, Doug Ford, suck my ween," and that's okay. And if
doing it to a political, well, at least in this country currently, you can express yourself to political opponents or political people. I would shudder to say that in certain states after the Trump administration is in, and they've openly said that it's not technically illegal for the president to kill political opponents.
Well, you saw the guys from Morning Joe go down and kiss the ring, so it's going to get real dumb.
I was going to say there might be a point, not necessarily right away, but there might be a point in the States where you might not be okay just saying whatever you want about a politician that's in power.
Yeah.
And we will see how that will be challenged, whether or not it will be or not. But there is a possibility that things might happen.
Yeah.
Not to worry anybody, but just, or to be conspiracy mongers, just words have meanings. And it's pretty clear that there will be consequences for certain words.
Yeah, like, yikes. So moving on to our next story, and this warms the gamer heart inside of me because it's so stupid. This story comes courtesy of BarstoolSports.com. A French gamer challenged a billionaire business owner to a 1v1 match, proceeds to cower Frenchly when he accepts the challenge. Via Dextero, where part of this article is quoted from, a billionaire
proceeds to cower Frenchly is
that's a phrase.
And I'm sorry that it's sad that for the last 200 years France has just been known as cowards, because when in reality, when we know when it comes to their own internal social issues, they are the ones that will riot and do the most violent. Like,
they do not fuck around.
They when it comes to their own civil liberties, they will not fuck around whatsoever. Like, they are the most burn authority to the ground if you're not being treated well. It's just that their wartime status has been the joke for 200 years, and it's like, I love that people sometimes will say, well, what about Napoleon? And they're like, remember, he was an Italian running the French. They couldn't even stop the Italians from running them. And it's like, oh,
that's
okay.
crazy.
And it's like, oh, that's kind of true. It's like, and it's like, how far back do you have to go to when you thought like the French were feared outside of Napoleon? And it's like, I don't know, the 100 Years' War. It's like, isn't that like hundreds and hundreds of years ago? It's like, yeah, it's like France has always been the joke. But then if you're like, well, we're going to take away one of your sick days from your thing, and they'll burn Paris to the ground over like, they were burning cities to the ground for real over being told that the retirement age had to be raised from like 62 to 65 or 66 because they were running out of, because of the the whole baby boomer situation. They might run out of money for the social services, and they're like, nope, fire and brimstone and burn it down. It's like, holy shit. It's like, they do not mess around when it comes to their own internal civil liberties.
Yeah, the French are in some ways not with whom to be fucked, and this definitely shows why. So a billionaire businessman who chairs a major internet company actually showed up to a 1v1 outside a supermarket after a Call of Duty player called them out on social media. Xavier Neal, founder of the telecom company Iliad, shocked ex-Twitter user who challenged him by actually turning up a LDL supermarket in Marseille, France. The French internet company mogul is the chairman and major shareholder of Iliad, one of the biggest telecom companies in the world based in Paris. When Call of Duty player Jimmy BLLT sent out a post on X calling out Neil, he never would have expected a response. Xavier Neil, I hate you, and I propose a 1v1 in front of the Iliad supermarket, the Ildy or whatever, on Rue Saint-Marie or Rue Saint in Marseille, the COD player said. But he got much more than just a simple response. Xavier took his offer seriously and indeed showed up at the location suggested, taking a picture to confirm he wasn't joking, and he captioned it simply, "I'm waiting."
This is an old looking dude that doesn't look like he can fight, but he's like, "Oh, you're gonna call me out? Okay, come here, you little fucker."
So this story is truly a shocking display of cowardice, even for the French. This article goes on to say, unfortunately, the entire interaction is in French, so I'm relying heavily on this article in Google Translate. But as I understand it, this nobody of a Call of Duty player was sick and tired of dealing with lag when playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So he took things straight to the top. He tweeted to the billionaire owner of Ildy, Xavier Neil, who is apparently the man responsible for the lag. This was back in May, but I guess Xavier was stewing from this one tweet from this Twitter user who has only 196 followers. And finally, last Friday, Xavier Neil gave this kid exactly what he asked for. He showed up outside the Ildy on Rue Saint in Marseille and accepted his challenge. This was his moment. He had an audience with a billionaire who was willing to play him 1v1 in Call of Duty. What might actually come of that? No idea. But when you challenge a billionaire to a Call of Duty off and the billionaire actually shows up, that's a huge moment for you. Anytime you have the attention of a billionaire who wants to meet you in person, it's probably a good idea to take advantage of the situation. You have to show up, and you never know what might happen. A few $100,000 might just fall out of the guy's pocket. But how does our cowardly friend Jimmy respond? Let's see what it says. He replies.
He basically is like, "No, it's okay. Sorry, hi, I was just joking."
Yeah, basically, he's like, he was only juggling. Pathetic. To do anything other than drop everything you're doing at that very moment and get on the LD on Rue Saint-Marie is a level of cowardice that can only come from the most timid of French gamers, but even still, Xavier the billionaire wouldn't let it rest. He gave him another chance. He wasn't just going to let this kid squander the opportunity so easily. And all that linguistically translates to, "Where are you? Come on, do you want to meet in the car park?" Which in reality translates, "Are you fucking serious? I am literally right here. You asked for this. Are you really going to sit at home juggling while I'm giving you exactly what you wanted? You can't be that stupid. If you come right now, I will still be here."
And the rest of the article is just sort of editorializing and doing more with the whole jokes against the French, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, what would you do in this? Like, for me, if I called out...
That's like calling out one of the Rogers family members and being like, "Hey,
Ted, get your fucking ass down here."
Too bad he dead. But that, or like, okay.
Who else could we call out in the Canadian media?
I was going to say, we don't want to do.
Hey, Lisa LaFlamme, I'm going to beat the shit.
No, but it's got, if we're going with like tech billionaires, it would be somebody in the Rogers family. Hey, Junior, come meet me. Or if it was Bell, I don't even know who runs Bell.
See, if this was social media companies,
okay. If this was just billionaires that people know that you wanted to call out, it'd be like calling out Galen Weston and being like, "I'll meet you in front of the fucking superstore this time," and then he was like, "I was mad at your bread fixing shit that happened, and by the way, this happened."
1v1 me in COD, 1v1 me in Dragon Ball.
And hey, motherfucker, I've been using your President's Choice mobile service for the phone, and it's not, and I'm calling you out, yeah. And if he was like, "Come get it."
Oh my God! I just figured this out.
If it was just a picture of Galen Weston who's been in court over things over price fixing, blah blah blah. He's a billionaire, one of the richest families in Canada, and you woke up one day and your phone exploded because he posted on Twitter and he said, "Come get these hands, bitch." And you're like, what? It's like, instead of like spending time in court and all this stuff, trying to sort out, all this stuff and all these big businesses, he's like, "No, I gotta drive over to the superstore at this area because this bitch is gonna catch some hands.
See, it's funny. I can think of several examples of what I would actually do. I mean, if I were to call out someone from a social media company, you call out Musk, he'll make every excuse to not fight you. Zuckerberg will actually show up.
Oh, Zuckerberg would fight you, and then he'd be like, I don't know why you're upset that I spent $1 million on a trainer and then I came and punched you in the face. No,
exactly.
with Musk, if you want him to do something, what you have to say is, I will fight you or a proxy of your choosing, and then he'll pick some weirdo that's actually an MMA to fight you.
Yeah, exactly. Like he'll pick like, I don't know, De Silva or some bullshit. Yeah, like he'll pick some tough motherfucker, and yeah, like
knowing him now, he'd probably pick like Andrew Tate. be like, as long as Tate gets out of Bulgarian jail or Romanian jail or whatever the fuck it is, we'll have him fight you for. There would be some shit, what would happen.
I mean, and to speak of examples where calling out people on Twitter actually works. I mean, I've never really talked about this on the show, and I'm just very briefly going to say this. When I raised a issue this past summer, when I had an issue with Toys R Us and WWE, the billionaire more or less showed up and did me right. And actually treated me really well.
If it's good for PR, this is not a good for PR situation.
Oh no, this was someone who was petty. Like, oh really?
He was like, you know what? It's not going to do us any good publicity. I'm just going to be like, hey, I think it's funny to take this guy down a peg, and he's like, it's kind of punching down at the kid.
I mean that's so funny. Just the response, I'm waiting, or all right, are you serious? I'm at the car park. Do you want me to come to you?
That's literally that's literally like having him take a picture of him looking at his hands and being like, they're waiting.
Yeah, like it's so nuts. I mean, like, however, I will say this, as social media continues to change, you can call people out on these social media platforms like X and Twitter and Blue Sky and Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Occasionally, you might have to be ready for someone to catch hands. And occasionally, you may have to deal with the consequences of your actions. Now, sometimes, in my case, it works out wonderfully. In other cases, the cartels show up.
Don't call out somebody that is not mentally stable. Like, you'll see, like, if you see a creator or you see somebody who's having like, who's gotten famous for having like meltdowns and things.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them out or make fun of them or punch down at them if you think that they have the possibility that they may travel cross country to come after you.
Well, yeah, because there was that one guy who called out Boogie and showed up at his house, and Boogie pulled a gun on him.
And also, like, and that guy, the whole situation, Boogie himself is not a good person.
No, he sucks.
But beyond that, if somebody showed up at my place, and it depends on the laws there. The guy kept mocking him, but like, you could tell he's not right in the head either, because he was the kind of guy that his solution in his head was like, well, if I get shot, it's great content.
Yeah, like that's
like if I get shot and die, well, look how famous. Like, if that's the thought process, the guy is a lunatic. That's when you call the cops.
Yeah, that's definitely a reconsider your life choices moment.
That's, you know what I mean? Like, there's a point where it's not worth it. And don't call somebody out like that. I mean, old man businessman like that, he did it as a joke to call him out, and then the guy was like, fuck around and find out, and he goes, wait, what?
Excuse me, son?
Yeah, you weren't expecting that one. So I mean, that's the kind of funny one, but again, it is even more funny this French. I think the article went, Barstool
a little far.
Barstool tends to go into the more of the comedy that you would have seen in the late 90s, like the old Vice kind of comedy where it's a little
Sean
over
Baby
the top.
Type of stuff.
A little over the top. Not even that it's politically incorrect, but like they're editorializing for the sake of comedy a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, I can see why it became newsworthy.
See, you know who would be fun to call out, and I know they would have fun with it? I'm friends with some of the Dragon Ball voice actors, and I would love to be like, do you know how many times I've lost to a Gohan? I'm calling you out, Gohan. We are going to 1v1. Now, in this person's defense, I'd probably stomp them. Oh, did I just call him Kyle? No, Kyle, I'm fucking with you. But no, that would be fun.
And I mean, that's different. All fun like this.
But not seriously calling it a billionaire to say your leg has cost me a match. Like, dude,
I mean, this would be like
Duty.
that's France, but that would be like in England being like, fucking Richard Branson. Don't fuck with him. He might show up. Like,
yeah, Lord British will come to your house and beat the shit out of you.
Richard Branson, like when he did his big interview when they were launching, I think it was Virgin Airlines in Canada, or no, I think it was when he was launching Virgin Mobile.
Yeah.
The dude skydove into Toronto. That's how he arrived.
Yeah, that guy has got balls of steel.
This is like 25 years ago or more, or 25 years ago. I remember he skydove into the city, like obviously not like directly into this, like he skydove into like the airport, and then showed up at City TV and Much Music, and he showed up in his skydiving gear because that was the stunt. It's like, hey, Virgin has arrived, and it was like, and that was when he was trying to like portray himself as almost like a James Bond kind of billionaire, and it was like cool. So people knew him for like that. He's motherfucking crazy enough that if you called him out on that, it might be for a stunt, but he wouldn't beat you up, but he might show up. But this proves, with the world becoming the way it is now, maybe don't call out the rich psychopathic billionaires, because let's be real, you kind of have to be a bit of a narcissist and sociopath to become a billionaire. So
true.
maybe don't call them out, because the idea, I'm of the belief that there should not be a thing as billionaires individually. If you have so much wealth that you can't spend it all,
then what's the point?
It's already too much. But a lot of the personality types that feel they need that have either god complexes, super greed, or pure on narcissism. So, luckily it sounds like this guy had a bit of a sense of humor, but it also sounds like it wasn't a sense of humor. It sounds like he was willing to be like, bitch,
I still love the fact I'm waiting. That slays me.
That is also such a very French thing. Like, you can just picture, like obviously translate it, but you'd be like, I'm waiting. And he's got a cigarette and a glass of wine. And he's like, what, are you here yet? Oh no.
In our last story, Alex was able to find this week, and it's about my favorite pasta in the entire world. This story
this is from a gadget.
I love it. So this story comes courtesy of Engadget.com. Chemists have created the world's thinnest spaghetti. Researchers from University College London have done what celebrity chefs and Italian nanas could only dream of. They've made the world's thinnest spaghetti. The culinary sounding accomplishment, published in Nanoscale Advances, has yielded strands of each starch fiber that are just 372 nanometers wide, which is invisible to the naked eye and is even smaller than some wavelengths of light. Quote, the world's thinnest spaghetti sounds silly, but the starch can actually have important applications in medicine. For example, nanofiber starches could help wounds heal when used in bandages, since they'd be able to keep out bacteria while allowing moisture through, rather than going through energy-intensive processes of refining their own plant cell starch for nanofiber.
Which, if you want to break that down very quickly, what that would also mean is, if you could use like very microscopic tools to help with stitching or whatever the thing, it could help with developing, like, how we have stitches now that can dissolve, right?
Yep, I've had them.
Exactly, and that's what I had too. I had dissolving stitches. Now imagine if they could be so thin that when they heal, they don't leave scars.
Yeah, they just disintegrate. Yeah,
like completely absorb into the skin, are completely healthy, won't leave any bacteria, like they said, but they're so thin and made of a purely organic material that doesn't irritate, doesn't do anything. And like, you think of like the future tech where it's like Star Trek or something, and it's like, oh, he was torn apart, but we used the microfiber nano, blah, 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 and we sewed up the micro holes that were in his heart, that sort of thing.
So rather than going through the energy-intensive process of refining their own plant cell starch for nanofibering, these chemists decided that store-bought was fine and made the starch directly from flour. Their version of nanofibers were created with a process called electrospinning, where an electric pulse pulls a flour and liquid mixture through an extremely small metal holes into threads that are just nanometers wide. Extrusion through a die is literally the same way you'd make conventional spaghetti to accompany your bolognese or your meatballs. only at a much smaller scale. There's still a lot to be done before the product will be appearing at the doctor's office, but in this step, more sustainable starch nanofibers. And while I would pay good money to watch chefs try and explain invisible pasta on a reality show, electrospinning almost certainly wouldn't become the new molecular gastronomy hotness, as co-author Professor Gareth Williams of the UCL School of Pharmacy put it. Quote, "I don't think it's useful as a pasta, sadly, as it would overcook in less than a second before you could take it out of the pan." Again, you are right. The applications for nanofibers would be astounding. And as you mentioned, like heart surgeries, like for example, are bariatric surgeries.
Okay,
Like
and
internal stitching.
Without sounding so harsh, but like there are plenty of applications I can think of for infants.
Yeah.
You know what like there was a girl around the corner from me whose little sister was born with a hole in her heart.
Preemie babies, right?
She was a preemie baby and had a hole, and had to be in the hospital. There was like, even when you think about it, so she was 10 years younger than us, but like, so like mid 90s, it was still very touch and go whether or not a baby that was born with that issue could live. I remember that we were told that had she been born 10 years earlier, like when I was born, like if you were born in the 80s, the baby would have died from that.
Yeah.
Like the technology did not exist to properly anywhere in the world to do it. And then, so you think of like, but not even that. Let's say a baby, has some sort of skin condition and easily tears or gets cut. But like, you want to stitch up a baby and they don't know what to do. They're screaming, they're moving around, they're doing it. And you have to like basically hold their arm in place or whatever, you splint or whatever. Let's say they got cut, yada, 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 horrible, whatever. Yes, they have sometimes different size stitches, but like, the stitching on a baby would have to be so much finer and more delicate than it would be on a 6'4" dude.
Mm-hmm. Like when I think about this nanofiber tech, I think about the consumer applications, and it's going to sound really weird, but follow me through this. In the Fantastic Four, for example, when Reed Richards designed the new suits for them, and when he designed stuff for Spider-Man, he made it out of nanofiber, stuff that could readjust as the person moves. So you would literally have the most perfect pair of pants, the most perfect sweater. And you think about how that could be applied to something let me think of something really fast here. Think about underwater travel, for example, wetsuits, stuff that could literally hug your skin. Like,
and I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be using a starch that is water soluble. It would be, but like this is a step in that direction. But for medical internal applications, this makes sense. But again, you're thinking of like right now we use a lot of silicon things. Like let's say somebody's had a skull fracture, or they're missing a part of their skull.
I never even thought about that.
And like you see all those sometimes horrible videos on the internet. It's like, oh god, somebody's head caved in, or when they breathe, you can see their skin in their head pulsates because it doesn't have the skull's broken there or is missing or whatever. And then obviously in the developed world, or where we have the money to do so, people will put in like there used to be a metal plate they put in your head, right? And that can cause issues. And then eventually they started using things like silicone molds and stuff to put underneath the skin that, obviously won't hurt you or anything. Well, what if, you start using microfiber, stuff like that, and you can do some sort of composite, and, eventually you might not need something. It could be something very light, maybe, that's inside of there that holds things together. If you have like a micro hole, or maybe even, to help fix things, maybe it can help with ulcers. Maybe it can help with intestinal things. Maybe it can help with
cancer,
skin cancers, like that.
Dentistry. Imagine tooth repair.
Or specifically burn victims that need skin grafts.
Oh, that's
and you want to have less scarring and all. So that's sort of, I think, the idea here is like, oh, somebody had a horrible burn on their arm and they've had a skin graft, but it's going to be leaving horrible scarring. So think of in the future what the plastic surgery industry could be like.
Oh wow, I never even, man, fuck, dude, you should be calling someone.
I mean,
That's clever shit.
and it's just like it's the hardest part is just not eating. Stop licking your scabs.
Yeah.
But they taste so good with bolognese.
Yeah, I taste like no. But yeah, like there's astounding properties for this stuff. So again, thank you to the University College of London for doing this study. Hey, who knows what we'll see with this technology in the years to come.
And,
So that's
and all I thought of when I saw that was spaghetti. I was thinking, oh, M&M spaghetti. Mama spaghetti.
So that's going to do it for this edition of This Week in Geeks Nerd News and Weird News for the week. And we got one more review coming to us from Alex this week, and then we're going to discuss what is coming up as we begin moving towards the year end here on Twig before we take our winter hiatus. So we will be back, guys, right after this, only on thisweekingeek.net.
It is finally time for us to talk about Dragon Quest III. HD, 2D, 2D HD, whatever you want to call that style of game. This was announced, what is it now? 2 years, 3 years ago? Something like that? It's got to be, is it 2022 maybe? I don't know. The last 4 years have been a bit of a blur, but I have been following this for quite some time. I'm a big fan of that initiative that's been done at Square Enix, and now you're seeing even indies copying that style. And this was sort of the bigger project that was announced from Yuji Horii, the creator, saying, hey, we're sort of getting the band back together, working on getting design for this put into that modern style with Akira Toriyama, who was going to oversee the artwork. It's one of the final projects he worked on before he passed, unfortunately. So we get to see what does this classic Dragon Quest look like with modern HD sprites and everything. And I can say I was provided with a review code that I played on the PS5 with the PS5 native version of it, and it looks pretty. It looks pretty, plays pretty, has a ton of customization that you didn't usually see from the traditionally conservative Dragon Quest franchise. And I won't do any spoilers plot-wise here at all, because you sort of have to go in. If you're confused as to why they're doing Dragon Quest 3 first, or was originally known as Dragon Warrior 3 here in the West, it is part of a trilogy, obviously the first three, that take place in the same world with same lore over different time periods. It's just that this is chronologically the earliest. So originally they came out with one, then the second one was a sequel, and then for the third one they went and did a prequel to both. And that's basically all I need to say for that here. So it is kind of smart that they're doing it this way. They've also mentioned that they're releasing 1 and 2 is sort of a bundle, which makes sense because 1 is a very short game. It is like barely a quarter of the length of like a Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy 1. It was basically like playing maybe 3 or 4 sessions worth of a D&D campaign. So you could get the whole game done, outside of grinding. If you're really smart, I think you can beat the original game in like 4 hours. If that, for an RPG, that is relatively short, especially even for the era. It's just that it was, kind of the first, one of the first JRPGs. That's the idea behind it. Here we have a game that I put roughly 30 to 40 hours in. And that was playing sort of like a mix of accessibility and settings in that, because you can set difficulties, a lot more here than you could on previous versions of the game and just games in general in the franchise. I think they did a fair bit of work with Dragon Quest XI when they did the sort of enhanced edition for multi-console, where you could change difficulties that way. So here you have your normal difficulty, hard, that's so forth, but there's also like the easiest difficulty. If you were to switch to that, like if you're concerned with having kids that maybe think it's too hard playing a traditional game, if you put it to the easiest setting, it doesn't lock you out of any trophies or anything like that. What it will do, though, is it will make it so that you can't die. Essentially, like if your HP can't go to 0, like you can't be wiped out of battle. And when you do things like even when you're having the monster arena battles, which is sort of a new thing for this, where you can go around and into certain areas on the world map that are like clearly marked that you can enter these like little hidden zones, and depending on the time of day you go and the personality traits of your characters, you can recruit friendly monsters that then can join you in battle in an arena. They're sort of automated. Even those can't die. Like you can basically have like an auto win, not like you're going to automatically win, but you can have a fail safe set so that if you're worried, if you're struggling, you can switch down to it. Or if you're, a kid that's sort of just learning the ropes of RPGs, this is actually a great game to start with because you're not as horribly punished as people used to be in games, especially early Dragon Quest games. But if you have it like at the normal settings or higher, when you die, you'll lose some gold, but you don't die. There's not like a game over state in these games, which is good. So again, you can sort of customize that the way you want. You start the party with your main character that you name. You can select your body type if you want to be more masculine or feminine presenting, and voices and so forth. You can do all of that, switch that there, and then you can recruit some people from a tavern to be your party members that are from different job classes, and you can choose either a few pre-mades that they've already got there, or you make your own. I make my own. My party makeup, I went with what was traditionally called like a goof off or a jester, that sort of thing. I did it because it's usually a little bit harder, but that is a character that I think it's like a gadabout, it's been called as well. It depends on the version of the game you're playing. They sometimes can in battle like miss and just goof off, and they're kind of hard to control. But if you get them to level 20, they can automatically be turned into a sage, which is the job class that usually requires you to find a special book, of which I think there are 2 in this game. There used to only be 1, I think. And that book will let you then transition into a sage if you go to sort of upgrade or change your job class. And changing your job class lowers you back to level 1, but you keep half of your stats. So you end up sort of like, think like prestiging in like online multiplayer games. So the only way to have like a party of 3 sages traditionally was you could find one of those books, and then the other 2 would have to be you'd have to at some point end up playing as a goof off or a jester or a gadabout, whatever you want to call it. And that could be a little difficult. Well, it's made a little easier here because again, you can find 2 of the books throughout the game. So I ended up at the end of the game having a party of my hero and then 3 sages. And you want a sage because they don't equip the best armors in that, but they do get pretty much every offensive and defensive spell in the game. So they become immensely powerful. It's very similar to the sage in Final Fantasy III, where, you get it sort of at the end of the game. You can get the ninja and the sage, and the ninja is the ultimate offensive player, and the sage is the ultimate defensive. And at the beginning of the game, when you're going through it, if you get a sage early on, they'll end up being more powerful than your main character. But your main character, as you get levels up farther and farther into the game, becomes significantly more powerful. Plus, you're finding seeds everywhere, like that in certain seeds are like raise your strength, raise your other stats. For the most part, you're giving them all to your main character anyway. So the other job that they added to this was a monster tamer beastmaster, which having one in your party, as far as I could tell, seemed to make it a little easier to talk to some of the monsters, as I mentioned earlier, that you could recruit. Also, the more of those monsters that you have in your repertoire, there's like over 100, I think there's 130 of them you can capture. When you have them, the higher they get, some of the higher stats that your Beastmaster has, because you'll have a move that will do an average damage based on the most powerful of the monsters you've captured, that sort of thing. Or do more damage based on having more monsters, yada, yada, yada. So that was actually a pretty cool character to have. That was the last one that I eventually converted into a sage. So You traverse the world as in traditional Dragon Quest games. There's the overworld that you're going over. You go from town to town. You eventually sort of work your way out of a very linear area into making it more open, where you can sort of choose to tackle the bosses and objectives on your own merits, and you have the option in your settings to have it where it'll show on a map where your next objective is, or next multiple objectives if you have an open path to go through, or you could have that off and just explore yourself. You will be traversing via multiple modes of travel. There are secrets to find at different places. Without any like actual story spoilers, there is post-game content that you can do, multiples, things that have been retained from previous versions of games that have been ported. So if you've played previous version, I think there was one on, it was a Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Color. Stuff like that'll be there. So basically it's the ultimate version of Dragon Quest III, which for a lot of fans was their favorite. It was either this or 4, I think, in the West that most people for the longest time had their favorite. So it'll be interesting to see if they end up going with more of these. There is voice acting in this. There's which is, it's fun and goofy. It's not like the most professional sounding stuff, but it does its job. The battles move fairly fast. There's an auto battle mode to sort of just speed through and stop the grinding a little bit. There's never a gigantic difficulty spike. It always feels like you're doing the right thing. There's not too much grinding that you have to do. It's just, there is some areas that have higher encounter rates than I would like, but it's obviously been toned down from what the original NES title was. But it's a solid, fun JRPG that I think all ages can enjoy. And I know sales have been released in Japan, and it's doing quite well there, which is unsurprising. I hope it does really well here in the West, because I want, the 1 and 2 bundle to come out and be great. I'd love to see the rest of the 6 pixel art games. I guess you could count 7 as a pixel art game if that was the PS1 title, but I'd like to see the first 6 games eventually come out in this format. And if they've already got the engine down right now, I hope that they can just sort of use this to move forward, and we could get one of these games maybe every other year, because I've loved these HD-2D titles that they've released in the past, and I think right now, other than GQ 1 and 2, we don't have anything else announced. So we'll have to wait and see what comes next from that. As it stands now, I do think this is going to be a good holiday seller. I think if you're looking for a game to introduce kids to as a JRPG, it's perfectly friendly. There's nothing objectionable in it. It has great visuals. It has that awe and wonder feeling that sucks you in, almost like it did back in the day on the NES when you'd have to use your imagination. But here, it's sort of like a visual of that imagination that you had as a kid. And if you're somebody fairly new to the franchise or only played 11, because that sort of was like a hallmark in the franchise where people finally were sort of jumping on, now that JRPGs are hot again, hotter than maybe they've ever been since the late 90s, this might be a good one to start with. Well worth the money. I can't speak for how it, maybe necessarily plays on any other platform, but on the PS5, it is a rock solid game. No glitches, no issues, great music, great visuals, great gameplay. It's just like feel good comfort food.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
Hey guys, welcome back to This Week in Geek.net. This has been a wonderfully enthusiastic show. It's really good to have you back, Alex. It's amazing how much I've actually missed you. And it's weird. I was getting used to doing solo shows, and not that I minded, because it was definitely a chance to get the ring rust off, because it's been a while since I've done anything that was just completely solo. I'm used to working with Dave, Ken, or JT, or like even Aaron at points. But it's great to have you back. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yes, again, I keep saying knock on wood, because it's like, don't jinx me.
Yeah, and to think that this year we're starting to bank content for the hiatus, and we may be more active during hiatus than we were in the last month or so, just again from us being sick. But now that, again, knock on wood, we're both kind of feeling good.
Based on how things are coming, and because of a postal strike that's currently ongoing, some things that were like for gift guide might not make it in time.
Like anything physical is just not going to get here.
So while technically, you know, like you said, on the 12th or 13th, we'll have the gift guide out. And then that, you know, a day or two later, we'll probably have our Game Awards coverage / end of the year stuff, probably in around the Sunday or Monday slot. Then we're basically done, you know, until
mid-January.
Mid to late January, you know, depending on content. So we usually end up having, you know, a few weeks off. We'll probably have a review show at some point in there, not a regular show, but I have a feeling if the strike goes the way it is, we might not get some stuff that we want to feature and cover until the middle or end of December when we're technically off. So we'll have that, you know, we'll probably have one or two specials. You know, we used to do a Christmas special to come out. We'll have something probably there. And then we'll have maybe something, who knows, maybe we'll have something to throw up for New Year's or something. But yeah, like it'll seem like a hiatus to us, but we'll have plenty of stuff for people to listen to.
Oh yeah. Like I'm planning on probably working through the break because why not? I'm probably going to work with like Dave and Ken because I really like doing loose canon with those two. Like through Dave and him doing Do You Even Movie, I get exposed to a lot of new stuff. I'm able to just pitch wild ideas. And I'm not kidding when I mentioned doing something for Alfred Hitchcock. When I did my review for North by Northwest, I didn't expect to like that movie as much as I did. I think that's my first or second Cary Grant movie. And it was just really, really well done.
It's the time period. I told you when you posted on Facebook, the thing I remember most is what a lot of people remember, which is the crop duster plane scene.
Yeah, because like everybody's always seen that scene spoofed in The Simpsons, Family Guy, probably South Park too.
And I mean, if you look at it compared to like a Mission Impossible, the stunt isn't crazy at all. But when you consider that this was the late 50s,
1959, yep.
Back then, you very rarely, like you have a plane that would be outside, you might have stock footage. You almost never had the actor doing anything when a stunt was actually happening. Like traditionally you had stuntmen do things and it would be off screen, or you'd have a look-alike, or it'd be blurry, yada yada, or you'd composite the shot. And if you watch it today, it looks very fake, right? And even Hitchcock and people back then would do things with like a backdrop, you know, rear projection thing, and they would layer it. So they did some special effects. But what was striking for the time, I don't think it's the first cut or where it swings over him. It's the specifically
when he hits the deck, that's an insert shot. They did that on a soundstage, but that plane, that's coming at him, and he's like, ah,
and you know, when it crashes into the
tanker truck,
the tanker truck, when he's running away from the explosion, that's real.
Yeah,
that was not done on a green screen. You can even see his reaction is a little different and everything. Like that had not been done with a lead actor like that. With that particular shot, like that wide angle shot of him running away and the explosion happening. That and you're like, well, today you might look at it and go, so it's like, no, but that was very new for the time period.
Oh yeah,
you know, so you can see why it was so influential back then.
Yeah, like it makes me realize the more I talk with you, Ken and Aaron, there's a lot of movies I just haven't seen. And I've never considered myself to be a student of cinema. I like movies, and there's a very important distinction in that. Movies are your popcorn, like they're your Transformers and they're your Michael Bay movies. And there's nothing wrong with loving those. But sometimes you come across a film, like I consider in my world, for example, Terminator 2 is a film. Aliens is a film. Alien 3 is a movie.
Cultural touchstones are what make the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
And Hitchcock, you know, you're going to have the fans who are like, everything he did. No, not everything he did. Like, you'll look at stuff and you'll be like, okay, Rope. And it's like, it's famous for the premise. I don't know if you've seen it, but like, the premise is a guy invites somebody over, and he invites his old teacher over, and he's like, he's committed a murder, and he's mocking him, and how are you going to prove it? Blah blah blah. And it's like, I'm sorry, spoiler alert. The secret is there's the dead body is within a trunk on the ground in front of them the whole time.
Oh wow!
He's like mocking him and blah blah. I've done a murder. How are you going to catch me? Like, he's done it. He knows he's done it, and it's about the person in there trying to solve it while it's there. Like,
that's
very
cool.
Intellectual, and it's cool, and cinema people love it. It's not the cultural touchstone that The Birds was. Mm-hmm. It's not the cultural touchstone that
like Vertigo,
that Vertigo and Psycho were. North by Northwest is sort of. It's the one that straddles the line. Like, everybody knows about it, but it's not like it changed culture.
Yeah, I mean, it influenced pop culture with those scenes, but it's surprisingly funny, which kind of took me by surprise.
But when that's because Hitchcock himself had that dry British sense of humor, so he injected that into his stuff. Like, what was the one? Was it? I'm drawing a blank. Is it Lifeboat? Is it the one? Whatever the one he did that where it's like the people trying to survive after a ship sank. I think it's Lifeboat. Mm-hmm. If I'm wrong, sorry, I'm getting the name wrong. But like, how he always inserts himself into his movies. Mm-hmm. He's in. I forget what scene was he in the background of North by Northwest. Is he like going to a phone booth or something? I think that might be it in that one.
In that one, yeah, there's like a phone booth scene. The Hitchcock cameo is he gets a bus door slammed in his face.
Okay, that's what it is. Well, in the Lifeboat one, people are like, "Where is he?" He's a dead body floating face down next to.
Oh, that's cool.
In the water, and it's like, so like he had that.
He's the original Stan Lee.
Yeah, like the idea. Well, if you ask anybody, the Stan Lee cameos, like young people are like, "Oh, Stan Lee cameo." That's not what people were calling it. They were saying, "Oh, he's doing a Hitchcock cameo." That's what people said in the first few, right? Because that was what he was known for, and that's sort of the newest person to do that now is M. Night Shyamalan. Does it in all of his movies, right?
Oh yeah,
and that's a direct, like, he's 100%, like, that's a direct homage to the fact that that's what Hitchcock always did with his pictures. Maybe not in his first couple, but when he started making movies that got popular over here, right? Because his original British ones maybe not, but like when he started making productions with the U.S. in mind, that's what he did. So I get it. It's a great movie. It would be interesting for you to see some more of his stuff. So again, some of the stuff is going to be doesn't hold up as well, but like, I would say if you've never seen it, Mike, one that you definitely need to see is Rear Window.
Okay.
That's a Jimmy Stewart one. Rear Window was remade, and you've probably seen it, the Shia LaBeouf movie, Disturbia.
Oh, I liked that. I saw that in theaters.
That's a remake, a reimagining of Rear Window.
See, it's always interesting because, like I said, I'm always willing to learn stuff from you guys. And like I said,
here's the premise for Rear Window. I'll give it to you, and I do think you should watch it.
Okay.
Jimmy Stewart he's broken his leg, and he's basically stuck in his apartment building, and it's one of these like
it's that Simpsons episode, right? With Bart and the fucking telescope?
Yes, the tenement apartment building where there's a courtyard that's shared between three apartments, sort of like in the projects, and he's stuck there, and he's so bored because it's the 50s. Not everybody had a television yet, and or you had a radio that you listened to, and you could read, and he's bored with his life. He's kind of bored. His girlfriend / fiance is more fancy and wants to like travel the world and all this, and he doesn't want to do nothing. Blah blah blah. So he's bored. So his thing he's done while he's been recovering is he's been looking out of his window with his binoculars and looking at all the neighbors across in the other apartment across the courtyard. And he doesn't know who they are. He might know their names, but he doesn't really know who they are. So he's given them all nicknames, and he knows their routines and their lives and what they're doing. He's like, there's like Miss Lonely Hearts who's single and doesn't have anybody. There's another guy there. There's a person who dances. There's the newlywed couple, and so he's like got his own television, and it's just him watching the different people. It's kind of creepy when you think about it, but the idea, the premise is he's had nothing to do. He's going stir crazy, and then he sees somebody with a husband, and witnesses some things, and some things don't seem quite right to him, and he thinks that the neighbor across the street might have murdered his wife.
Is this like a riff on The Birds?
Well, no, the Birds,
The Burbs with Tom Hanks.
The Burbs was sort of a riff on that, a little bit on that. And he tells his nurse, who's been coming and changing his bandages, she gets kind of in on the conspiracy, and then his fiancée gets in on it, and it's how they get embroiled in the paranoia that happens to be, is it real, is it not real, what's going on, and it has to do with getting to know and understand the people that live in the buildings, and yada yada yada. And it's one of the best thrillers and one of the best movies of that time, and the whole thing takes place in his one set in his apartment, and then looking out at the balcony and looking at the courtyard. That's all it is. Everything else is the camera pointed at the soundstage that has multiple levels of people doing their things. Like, it's really interesting. I think you'd like it. It holds up one of the best, especially for being like at this point, like over 60 years old.
Yeah, I'd definitely be down to watch that. So, hey, maybe I'll pitch the idea to Ken and Dave.
A couple thrillers,
yeah.
Maybe pick the Jimmy Stewart ones, because he did he did Vertigo with them. Was Rope one of the ones he did? He did like 3 or 4 with them. So you could pick just like the Jimmy Stewart Hitchcock movies if you wanted to.
I'm totally in. So yeah, we will definitely be doing that at some point right here on the show. So guys, thank you for being so ever patient with us, as we've had a very tumultuous couple of weeks here on the show, but yes. I'm glad Alex is back. I'm glad things are getting back to normal, to have those long, lovely, and often stupid conversations here on the show. And obviously getting Alex's review coverage is always nice. And he's got a lot of stuff to preview for Holiday Gift Guide. Like I said, Holiday Gift Guide coming up in just a couple of weeks, guys. So
expect very, very soon, if not tomorrow or the next day, a sort of Black Friday preview. We won't be going over the individual deals, because at this point everybody's got deals, so there's too much to go over. But what we can do is, we've got some stuff that we've been given for our gift guide consideration, and I've done a lot of like cursory checks over things, like enough to get first impressions in a lot of cases for games and movies, and even some like toys or little accessories and things you can get. And so I'm going to do sort of a I guess like a turd or treasure, but a review show, a little special, just to be like, hey, here's some stuff that I've done. Here's some highlighted things that, out of all the stuff we've been sent a lot. Here's some things that I do think you're going to want to check out. Maybe keep in mind for Black Friday and the whole week afterwards or so. And it's sort of like a mini preview and of things that are probably going to end up on our holiday gift guide as well. Just, stuff that isn't going to get full-length reviews, but that I still think I should recommend.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, guys, so we're going to take off for the rest of our days. Alex is going to be looking after the show, so we'll be looking for this later today. And, all right, guys, so for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again real soon, right here on thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.